And hello there. Thanks for staying with us on the Joy Prime channel. This is the National Joy Prime Dialogue on the free senior high school policy. It's been brought to you in partnership with non-profit organization School for Life. And guess why we're having this conversation? Many of you are aware that back in 2017, parents and guardians alike welcomed this whole policy about the free senior high school. Obviously, we're going to take away the cost, but after 8 years, we're getting to realize that this policy needs a next chapter, and that's why we're focusing today on reform, improving, and also sustaining the free senior high school policy. There's a reason why we're saying that, because if you take a look at what's been happening to the policy itself in terms of the data that we have, we'll paint that picture for you to have a feel of what's been happening. These are the number of schools that we have in terms of public senior high schools across the country, almost 700 of them. But if you go back to what we're facing now in terms of the policy itself, it appears that the free senior high school policy needs a next phase and the next chapter that we're about to unpack for you today. Take a look at this. In terms of the challenges being faced right now, infrastructure appears to be the biggest deficit, because if you're dealing with just about 700 schools that will have to take over 2 million students, you know definitely that there would be a challenge in terms of infrastructural deficit. And that's one of the key, and in fact, if you're ranking all of the challenges that are facing the policy, infrastructure will be big on the agenda. Mind you as well, there's the issue about funding. Funding has been a big challenge, and we'll be demonstrating that to you as to how, in fact, government itself has been challenged with releasing funds to the various senior high schools for them to deal with some of the emerging challenges on campus. And that's why food shortages became the national topic late last year, where, of course, some members of parliament were raising concerns about the quality of food that was being fed on campus. And in fact, pictures went viral on social media, with many of you, I believe, commenting on those videos that were posted on our platforms here, indicating to you the level, the quality of food that was being served to students. And now parents are now being involved in the whole debate and the whole conversation around ensuring that there's quality food for the students. And that's because many of the parents will now have to augment what government is giving up. Obviously, some of the parent-teacher associations are now having their own meeting, having to spend extra amounts, out-of-pocket payments, as we're calling it, on the free senior high school policy. Because yes, tuition might be free, but boarding house requirements, of course, are beginning to become a burden on many parents. Now, take a look at this. Even in terms of quality of education itself, there's been a big conversation around it as to how the policy appears to be railroading students. That's been the concern ever since the policy started. We had the education ministry then acknowledging a few of the challenges and explaining that, well, the way to deal with that is to go with the, double track system. So we can reduce the ratio to a teacher, but that's not extremely working, because obviously the numbers keep increasing. I will tell you about the numbers shortly and how that is much of a burden, even on the budget itself and on parents. But take a look at this. In terms of discipline, the Conference of Heads of Sister Schools have been lamenting that. Now, capital punishment and other issues are also being taken away as a result of the policy. We're not too sure if it is directly linked to the free senior high school policy, but if you're taking a look at issues of discipline, CHS holds that view that clearly there's a breakdown. And also, for those outside the public school sector, are beginning to feel the bite of what the free senior high school policy is doing. Because if you're afforded as a parent with not paying fees, and of course a private institution that might be charging much more, you would obviously be opting for the public school. So we had the Conference of the Private Schools, their heads also mounting pressure on government over the years, asking for the payments to be made to private senior high schools, so at least we can open up and have a holistic free senior high school where no one gets to pay, even if you, get that admission into a private school. This is the total number of senior high schools that I was talking about earlier. In terms of the number of schools that we have, 700, almost 700 of them, 699 is actually the figure. But we know that this would include, obviously, the TVET institutions and also the main grammar schools that we're dealing with in terms of the senior high schools. But why that number is important is because of the disbursement of funds. You take a look at the trend over the years, and this will give you a sense of why the numbers are going up and clearly why this 699 would not be able to take all of the students that we're talking about. We're dealing now with the figure in terms of a 56.3 percentage point increment in terms of the free senior high school policy and enrollment at the high school level. Take a look at how it shot up right from 2017 when the policy was introduced to where we are now with the figures doubling or even tripling if you're doing the mathematics for yourself. Take a look at 2016, where we were in terms of enrollment rate somewhere around 25.7%. As of today, we're dealing with enrollment shooting all the way up to 56.3 in terms of those who fall off from the basic school level. So this is the number and you know, the burden that the government has to deal with all of the time. And that's why it's having a toll on the national budget itself. As it stands now, this is the total figure for just 2024 alone. Over 29.5 billion Ghana cedis been expended on the policy for 2024. You bet, of course, be sure that by this year, we're going to be looking at an even increased figure in the first quarter when, of course, the finance minister gives us a sense of what will be happening to the free senior high school policy, because the numbers keep going up. And you can tell from here that allocation has been the biggest conversation and, you know, the biggest issue for the second cycle institutions. Just take a look at what's been the allocation to free senior high school alone, because this 29.5 billion, I must say, is for the entire education sector. But free SHS alone is, you know, taking up to 2.6 billion as of 2024. You see the figures shooting up from 2022, where, of course, we're dealing with just about 1.4 billion because of the numbers. But now it's shot up to 56% as we're pointing out to you. And that's why you have the figures going up to correspond with the enrollment rate, which is now on the rise in various public schools across the country. So 2.6 billion is what we're dealing with now. How will government continue to fund that, particularly when you have total allocation being 2 billion, roughly speaking, and then you have compensation in terms of the employees going all the way to 2.6 as well. So goods and services are also taking a huge chunk because we're expanding on food, just as we're pointing out, which is becoming a challenge in terms of the quality that's being served on campus. Now also taking some 1.4 million. So it's a broad conversation on what's been happening to the policy itself in terms of the average spending of just about 1.9 billion Ghana cedis, which government needs to look for each and every year, at least to make up for the free senior high school policy. And you can see that decline in terms of the credibility itself for the free senior high school policy in terms of allocation, because when it started off in 2017, high ratings for it in terms of credibility and commitment on the part of government, but it's dropped significantly to 51%, simply because government ought to find ways to keep sustaining the policy. So it tells you that based on that trend, definitely you're looking at a forecast of where the figures in terms of the amounts being expended on the policy will keep rising. And this is where we are with the projection coming through in 2027, where we'll be spending almost 13 billion Ghana cedis for this policy. The question is, how do we keep funding the policy? How do we keep finding all of these sums of money? Because if you're looking at even just 2024 alone, where we are doing projections, right from there to 2025, you're going to be dealing with almost 9.9 billion Ghana cedis. Where will government get that money from, even and to sustain the policy going into the future? That's why we're having this national dialogue in partnership with School for Life, just to ensure that we get a sense from the experts on what the next chapter of this policy will be. Look at this picture as well, in terms of Get Fund, because the Get Fund has been a critical aspect of the whole policy. We've been talking about, you know, infrastructure. That is key. You look at the allocation in terms of second cycle, they've been taking quite a significant amount of money, given the fact that the previous administration has been focused very much on the second cycle schools because of the free senior high school policy. So they're taking up almost, you know, the significant parts or portions of the allocations in terms of approved Get Fund budgets. You take a look at 2024, we're dealing with somewhere around 1.5 billion in terms of what Get Fund has been doing in terms of, you know, payments so far. with even the tertiary and the basic school, where experts say is very critical in terms of the formation of a student, not taking as much as what the senior high school and public schools have been taking. So you compare the amounts, for instance, basic school, just around 800 million, and you have all the way an allocation of payment of 1.5 billion going to public schools and get funds supporting, infrastructure in that sector as well. So it tells you the sense of what's been happening over the years. I want you to look at this because this will be very much important going into the conversation. The point about capping get fund and uncapping it. Of course, if it's capped, 3.2 billion in terms of how much the ceiling will be. But if we're dealing with the uncapped amounts, that will be around 7.9 billion cedis, according to the sources that we're getting from the Ministry of Education. So it's a broad conversation that we need to take a look at because many have shared their opinion, many have shared differing views on what should happen in terms of the future of the free senior high school policy. But this is the man in charge of the sector now, Haruna Idrisu, who has a very big task of shaping the next chapter of free senior high school. And guess what? He says that students actually undertaking courses in the general subject areas will have their admission fees refunded to them. That's for the first year, those who are moving from the senior high school into the tertiary level. And of course, he says the president intends to expand this over the years. And that's why we're having this conversation, because many say that allowing free senior high school to be expanded or extended all the way to the university level is now going to even pile much more pressure, because if you have a government that is going to be taking care of tuition for first-year students, those who've just completed the first free senior high school, moving into the tertiary institutions, that's going to be piling a bit more pressure. And it's the reason for which we're having this conversation. Be a part of it, because there are so many people joining us, experts, opinion leaders, and also executives of the School for Life who are very much passionate about what's been happening to the free senior high school policy. I believe that you at home as well, you're very much concerned about what's happening to this very policy and what the next chapter will be. I'm sure my guests and our audience in studio are excited about this. If you are, please give us a round of applause as we begin the conversation. So stay with us. When we get back, I'll tell you about who's helping us with the discussion, and we'll get to hear from our partners, School for Life. This is the Joy Prime National Dialogue on the next chapter of the free senior high school policy. I'm Blessed Sugai, and welcome. We'll be back shortly.
It's time to see your verdicts. Please raise your boards. Okay, so from our board, 37.5 people want this policy to be abolished. 12.5 people want it to be maintained, and the rest of the 50% want it to be reviewed. Now, let me come straight to you, Eugenia. Why do you want this to be abolished?
Abolished in a way that I feel if people are able to pay fees and come to learn, they will take studies more serious. Because during the free SHS, it's like they felt it was free, so they came to misbehave. Okay. Some came and just wanted to pass through the school. But I'm thinking if it's abolished and people pay fees, at least it will bring a better education system, and people will be able to get the good education they want and the good materials needed for education. Yeah, so that is my opinion.
All right. Wendy also has abolished. What or why do you want this policy to be abolished?
It should be abolished because it's not helping us. If we're being paid, like if we're paying school fees, though the teachers will have too many teachers, but because it's free, they don't usually come to class on time. They come very late. It's not like they don't even come at all.
All right. But if it is abolished, don't you think that those whose parents cannot afford it will suffer? Let me come to you, Collins.
Okay. No, their parents won't suffer.
Why?
Because they said free SHS, but we are still owing the school. Okay. As I said earlier, I completed SHS last year and I'm still owing the school. My result has been blocked. That I should pay first before they release it. So it has to be abolished.
All right. Now let me come to those who have said reviewed. Let me go straight to you, Genevieve. Why do you want this to be reviewed?
Yeah, I don't want it to be abolished and I want it to be reviewed because there has to be changes in the school. let's say if I'm paying for school fees, a teacher will come and ask me to get out to go and read because I'm not because it's free. So he said I should go and read while others are studying in school. So like it has to be reviewed. Those who come in, those who are coming in part, like they should do something about it so that with those that, like a teacher will come and ask us to get out from the class to go and read whilst lesson is going on. Like it should be stopped.
All right. Now, Victor, why do you think this policy should be reviewed?
Because I said review. The main reason why I want my review is that they need to check some things in the school.
What
like,
are the things?
Let's take it for instance, the food, the practical place, and that kind of stuff. They need to add some to so that the upcoming ones can benefit more than us.
All right, so he's saying that they should add structures, they should give you quality food, in fact, more food if possible. Is that the same for you? Is that the reason you want it to be reviewed?
Yeah, that's true. And also, as for the practical aspect, since there are not too much equipment, they should see because it's free, the students are now plenty coming. So if they see that maybe they can't afford for the practical staff, they should know maybe the schedule they will do for the practical staff for the students, so they will also get a chance to get the same time as other people do. Not some people will get the chance to do and others won't get the same chance to do. So as for me, they should review it and check it and bring it up again.
All right. Now let me speak to those who said maintain. Cinderella, you have maintain on your board. Why do you want this policy to be maintained?
Because I want it to maintain so that those who parents cannot afford it, so that they will get the chance or the opportunities for their daughters and sons to complete free SHS.
All right. Genevieve, I also see maintain. Is that the same reason for you?
Yeah. It has to be maintained so that it will release the burden of maybe financial professors on the parents, and also like not for free education. Many of us wouldn't be able to go to school. And so it has to be maintained and reviewed.
All right.
Free SHS has come to stay.
It's one of Ghana's most ambitious policies, giving every child access to secondary education. But after years of implementation, is free SHS working as it should?
To reduce burden on our parents.
Our dormitories were overcrowded.
Our own trunks, then we pile it on the floor, we put our bed on it and sleep.
A policy that changed the future of education. But how do we sustain it?
Free SHS is wonderful, but we have to look at it again.
Parents can contribute to their schools, but it cannot be another fee to block the less fortunate from going to school.
Education stakeholders are asking, what is next? Can we ensure quality while keeping access free?
What we're going to do is to get dedicated funding for it so that it is better resourced.
At the heart of this dialogue is a fundamental question. How can Ghana sustain free SHS while enhancing quality, equity and efficiency in the education sector? Joy Prime National Dialogue on Free SHS. The date is the 14th of February 2025. The time is 10 a.m. Live on Joy Prime and across social media platforms. This is in partnership with School for Life.
And thanks for staying with us. This is the Joy Prime National Dialogue on the next chapter for the free senior high school policy. You've heard a lot about the policy. We've given you the vivid national picture of what's happening to this public policy. But what do our experts have to say about the policy and its future? We'll be taking that shortly, but first I want us to listen to our partners. We're being supported, as I indicated earlier, by non-profit group School for Life, and the Executive Director, Wadad Shaibu, is joining us via Zoom to give us a goodwill message, because obviously they are concerned about quality of education and it's a good time to hear from them. So with that, thank you for joining us. It's unfortunate that you are not able to make it, obviously, because of the distance into the studio, but distance is never a barrier. You're joining us virtually. So let's hear that message from School of Life and how concerned you are about the free senior high school policy. You have the floor now. You can talk to the nation. And kindly unmute because we're unable to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear now, yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me. Greetings from Tamale.
Great.
And good morning to the distinguished team of experts who will be helping us to have this dialogue. And also to the audience, both in studio and those watching via Zoom and across the various social media outlets. Indeed, I am honored and excited to be part of this important national dialogue on such a critical matter as senior high education. School for Life is very proud of our collaboration with Joy Prime to bring this eventful program to life today. As an organization, our mission is to work with other civil society organizations and like-minded institutions to enhance access to quality education for every Ghanaian child. And primarily, our focus is on promoting equitable access to quality education, especially at the basic school level, by promoting systems strengthening, enhancing accountability, and advocating for equitable provision of education resources across all the levels of education. So why are we supporting this national dialogue? In fact, it is a known fact that since the start of the implementation of the Free Senior High program in 2017 by the ISWAL government, there has been concerns, there has been calls from well-meaning Ghanaians to take a second look at the structure and implementation of the program. There has been concerns about the quality being produced, the efficiency, the equity, and of course, the sustainability of the program. The current government is currently championing a comprehensive review of the program to make it fit for purpose. And School for Life support this noble call for two main reasons. One, we believe that such a review will offer the nation an opportunity to shape the program in ways that will make it more inclusive and also ensure that we have the quality of implementation and by extension, quality of learning outcomes at the senior high level. The second reason why we are supporting this dialogue is that we hope that through this review process, the funding architecture of the program will be well structured and broadened to ensure that not only the quality of implementation and sustainability of the program is ensured, but also a more balanced and equitable allocation and distribution of education resources across all the subsectors of education, be it secondary, basic, or tertiary. And the second point is actually very critical for us because as an organization, School for Life mainly focuses on basic education. And it is because we believe that basic education, which consists of the kindergarten through to junior high level, is a critical foundation. And if the foundation is right, quality at the higher level will be assured. So given the current financing and implementation approach, where the government tends to absorb the full cost of every child, rich or poor, it makes it really very difficult to channel resources to the other equally important subsectors within the education sector. And it is worrying. For instance, if you take the last 8 years, you would notice that basic education level has received relatively lower attention from the government by way of resource commitment and support due to the heavy demand of the senior high education occasioned by the free senior high program. So as the current government actually gears up to start a national consultative forum to shape its agenda on education, we think that the time is ripe. This is the right moment to have a dialogue on the free senior high program, to reflect on the key challenges and learnings emanating from the implementation of the program so far, and to also explore better alternatives aimed at improving its quality, efficiency, and sustainability. We hope that through this dialogue, we will generate useful suggestions and recommendations to influence and shape the current government approach to the structure and implementation of this the free senior high program. We hope to arrive at alternative implementation and financing approaches that will be more inclusive, will be more equitable and sustainable. One that will also have a general appeal and acceptability by all Ghanaians. So I look forward to an engaging and dispassionate discourse to shape the future of free senior high education in our dear nation, Ghana. And I would like to express our sincere appreciation to Joy Prime for this collaboration and to the distinguished experts who will be helping us to digest the issue. Thank you very much.
Right. And thank you. With that, Shaibu is the Executive Director for the School of Life, and we are obviously excited about this partnership, a reason for which we're walking this journey with you. Grateful that you're coming on board, and you've made my work very easy for today because you've set the ball rolling, giving us a sense of who's going to be joining us, except to say that I haven't mentioned them. So why don't we acknowledge them right away? I've been joined in studio now by Joseph Kwame Kuma, who's the MP for Kintampo North, I should say. Apologies for that. And also a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education. He's very passionate about that, and we're grateful that you're spending some time with us. It's going to be a very long day as we dissect the matters, because these are issues that are very critical to us. And of course, with that, we're fortunate to have Professor Jonathan Fletcher, who will be joining us. He's an advisor at TTEL. He will be joining us also virtually, just as you're doing. So we're excited about that as well. My audience are also here. And Dr. Peter Tefwa, who's the former Director of Education for the Northern Region, will be a part of the conversation. Don't forget also that Dr. Peter Party will be joining us as well. He's with iFest Ghana, and he's the Executive Director. So we have a long list, or a very tall list of persons who will be sharing their views with us. But we're particularly excited about one man we've not seen in quite a long while, but fortunately, he's joining us in studio because we've been looking for him just to, of course, inform the way forward on this national dialogue on the next chapter for the free senior high school policy. And I'm talking about Professor Emeritus Stephen Adai. Please, he deserves a round of applause on this. And Prof, Happy New Year to you. It's good to see you again after a very long while. How are you feeling and how are you doing now?
You don't say Happy New Year to 77-year-old in the studio. Come home with a parcel.
Definitely. That's the best way of doing it. And it tells you strictly, of course, everyone agrees to that. So we're making it a promise and we have to fulfill it here on Joy Prime. Of course, Prof is joining us to share his thoughts as well with us as we have this national dialogue going on. And I need to point out that at some point we'll open up the floor for questions, and you can also share that with us, so we'll be able to put that before our guests to, also shape their thoughts and find out from them what they think about some of the issues bothering you concerning this very policy. But I want us to start, by giving the opportunity to our guests to just share their brief thoughts on the policy itself, because it's been 8 years, if I'm not mistaken, about how far we've come in terms of the free senior high school policy. And that's why it's critical to hear from each and every one of you on what your own assessment has been about the policy. Let me start off with you, Honourable MP, because you're in Parliament, and so perhaps what your colleagues are planning to do in terms of informing the way forward on the policy itself. But let's go back to 2017, where it all started. We were excited, and I'm sure you were at the time when it was introduced.
Thank you for this opportunity, and let me welcome Prof. And I thank JoyNews for giving me this opportunity to meet Prof for the first time one-on-one.
That's great.
The media stations help us to network. Yeah. That's what I would say. And then
once you're doing that, he's giving you a cue that you have to come home.
Yes,
all the time. You have to come home.
So,
quickly learning indeed. Yeah.
Then also to thank my constituents, Kintampo people, for having had the faith in me and bringing me to Parliament the second time running. And then also to thank all your cherished listeners, and especially, let me say, my ranking member, Honorable Nochu, for seeding. He was supposed to be here. He called that there was another issue that cropped, and he called Asho.
All the same, we're happy that you're here. So I was talking about back in 2017.
Yes, back in 2017. Let me say that for the proper record, before 2017, that was as at 2015, it is all over. I would say that the issue of free senior high had already caught up with the system. Because if we go back to our constitution, Article 38, 2, or some say 2B, says that after Parliament had accepted that we should move on to free education, 10 years after us, we were supposed to have FQ, free compulsory universal basic education, that no child should be left out of our educational system. And in continuity of that is the Article 25B, which talks about there shall be free, progressive, secondary technical education. So by our constitution, it is clear that the system was now wrapped after years of our educational system, that any government that was coming into power should now begin to look at free senior high education. So the NDC era, under Professor Nana, the current vice president, who was the education minister, and you remember, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was the president. And they went to, was it Akumfi, our late professor, our late president, Professor Atame's hometown, and launched the free progressive secondary education. And the style of the NDC was that we should go gradual. So if you check the NDC style, that was when Prof. J. Nana, when she was the education minister, they started implementing free senior high in bid by way of infrastructure. That was where the e-blocks system started, where almost every program, home economics, science, and everything was in one block. Because if you go to any of the e-blocks, you see that there's home economics department, there's science lab for that, science labs for the main sciences. They have almost every program. So the schools were to take not less than 500 to 1,000 students. And the NDC style was also that we should have them as community days.
And not initially for boarding.
Yes, okay. Are you getting me? So they were now putting the infrastructure in between communities. You know, that was how Libya developed. Late President Gaddafi will not put an infrastructure near a community already developed. He will go to the bush, because government had the resource to send electricity, to send water. So you see that the NDC that time was being chastised that we were just building the E-blocks in bushes, at least. Some people were criticizing. They were right to do so. But the brain behind it to send between communities so that later infrastructure could pick up there. At least that compulsory electricity will be there, water will be there. And then the government also tied it with the provision of buses, you understand? So that we could catch students from various communities, come, give them that one hot meal, and then close and go back. So that was how the NDC planned. And the audiovisual is there. So free senior higher education, that's why we say, never started under Nanado, but the progressive free technical vocational education started under NDC.
And when you raise that point, many will also be quick to say, well, then we can go back to colonial or post-colonial era.
Let's give all of them the credit.
Right.
You see, by our governance system, we should not praise one side. The moment we do that, then we bring out politicization.
Right.
The moment we begin to criticize that this one didn't do well, I did well, then that's where politics comes into the educational system. So let's have the right information throughout. Yes, thanks to late President Nkrumah, and they said it was limited to the north. You understand? So somebody comes to say that now I want the whole Ghana to enjoy it. That's your side of it. And somebody said, let's go gradual. Not independent here and now, but let's go gradual. So that when the infrastructure is gotten, and now later we modernize them, then the system...
Okay, but the president then took a decision, that bold step, to open it up. That was his position. And I'm talking about the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. In your own assessment, do you feel that, well, he was right after all, by taking the bold step, opening up at least for once, so we can correct
one thing politically, taking a bold step, where did it land us into? What it has landed us into is what has brought us here for a discussion. Is it well done? Is the feeding system okay? The double tracking system we are claiming we have done with it, is it true? The educational calendar, is it well fixed? Students are in school and they don't know when they are vacating. When they are running short of food, hey, headmasters, close the schools and let the other people come in. So that is what it has brought to us, problems, a plethora of programs. And that is why we are called and advising. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, just like the Senche, when Ghana's economy, energy issues were becoming problem, the NDC was fast to say, look, let's call for economic dialogue. And that time, Prof, will remember, it was this, our father, Kwame Mpianim, wherever he is, God bless him. He was the one who joined the NDC at Senche, and they planned for Ghana, among other things.
I was one of the 6 chairpersons.
God bless you, Prof. Very good. God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for this. You see, so because he has been vocal on it, that's why maybe. Right. So thank you, Prof, for being a nationalist.
Okay. So
then you see, so the NDC has that listen that, look, knowledge is not in one person's head. So NDC is calling for educational forum.
I see.
Come once again. Let's put the free senior high concept into its right perspective. How will we go?
Okay. So, in fact, this is just the beginning of it, and we'll come back to what government will be doing differently, because you're a member of the NDC, so you'll be giving us a sense of that. Before I come to Prof in studio, I want to go on Zoom, because there are some of our guests who are joining us. I have Professor Jonathan Fletcher, who's on Zoom with us. And Prof, you've also been carrying out your own assessment about the free senior high school policy. We've heard the position of the NDC, the fact that, yes, we took a bold step, except to say that we now have challenges. So let's review and let's reform to inform the way forward. I'm wondering what your own take is on the policy and your assessment over the last 8 years.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll take this opportunity to say hi to your cherished
and Prof, you would have to turn on your video so we can see you.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you very much, President. And I would like to take this opportunity to say hi to your cherished viewers and listeners. To begin with, I think a lot has been said about the free SHS by many people, experts and non-experts. And I think one thing is clear, that there are some benefits of FSH, free SHS, and of course, like anything else, anything with benefits will have some limitations or disadvantages. I think it's important to acknowledge that the benefits that we have gotten from the free HSS are benefits that only a few people will disagree with. So, for example, if you look at the increases in enrollment, particularly in areas where students wouldn't have got the opportunity to be in secondary schools, they've been there because of the policy. And so if you look at one of the advantages, we will say is increased access. And also another thing that perhaps everyone wants to hear, which I believe everyone will say has happened, is reducing financial burden on parents. And in some cases, and I must say this, in some cases, people who wouldn't have had the opportunity at all to enjoy a secondary education have had the opportunity to do so. Looking at the graphs you showed earlier, you could see that looking at some point you had about 27% or below 40% people getting admission to secondary schools. Now you say it's about 56 point something percent, which suggests that yes, people have had the opportunity to do that. And also in some cases, there have been improved educational outcomes. In some cases, I wouldn't say in all cases. So in effect, it's been a policy that has supported a lot of people. And in 2017, I also said this, I was of the view that anything that will help people to gain access to education, particularly quality education, it's a good thing. And I did also mention that at the time, I said I wasn't the person in charge of the purse strings, and so obviously I didn't know how much money we had, and I kept saying that if we had enough money to support this policy, then why not? And even extend it to basic school and so on. But of course, there are also challenges, and we have all noticed these challenges, because increased access alone is good. But of course, once you increase access, then there is a possibility that increased access without corresponding, increase in resources will definitely lead to, quality will suffer. That's where, which means that if you increase access and you don't increase resources, then of course there's a likelihood that quality will suffer. And we've seen that in some cases this has happened. This has happened where you have the number of students in a class up to 120 in some cases. You say to yourself that if we don't do anything about resources, are we going to get the same quality? I would say the answer would say no at any time, because we need to make sure that we increase resources to correspond to the increase in access. So it's one of the areas that we have challenged. The other areas will be particularly in boarding schools, and this is to be expected, because free education, I say in this country, free education, when it's about free education, I'm talking about free tuition, then of course, everybody, is enjoying free tuition, so to speak. But before free HSS, not everybody was enjoying free boarding facilities. And so one of the areas that we're struggling as a nation is finding ways of making sure that if people get access to free tuition, then they get access to free other things. And particularly, the boarding system has put a lot of strain on the economy, particularly the education budget, because obviously you cannot send the students to a place where their parents are not there, where no one is there, and expect them not to, get the things that they would have gotten if they were at home. I think one of the areas maybe that has been a challenge is the source of funding, which will support this without hampering the academic achievement of these learners. And I think if you ask me, the key challenge, it's about funding, and that is why we are having this conversation. Of course, if we had enough money to go on doing everything we are doing in the present, or leaving the status quo, then of course everybody will be happy. But the question is, are we going to be able to have enough money to do what we are doing presently, even if it's very good? Are we going to? If the answer is yes, then the point is, why stop it? If the answer is no, then it means that we've got to do something about it. So in a nutshell, there are benefits as far as the policy is concerned, but of course there are challenges, and I think we need to look at ways in which we can address these challenges, and not only just address them in a particular way in which we can address the challenges, so to make this important policy sustainable. And so, as I said, in a nutshell, there are advantages, and of course there are disadvantages. We need to find ways in which we can address the challenges so that we will have quality, education for all our learners. So thank you very much. I'll stop here for now.
But when that comes up, is there any other yardstick in terms of measuring quality beyond the results of the students, right? Because if you take a look at the WASSCE examination, government has been consistent to say, well, the pass rates are higher than the years before. Is there any other baseline to assess, to say, well, beyond the results that we're seeing, you ought to pay attention to this other sector?
Yeah, I think apart from that, obviously, quality does not only depend on examination results. It's one thing that it's difficult to say that quality in real terms or quality, in examination results. Obviously, because as a nation, we are allocating resources using examination results. So you were tempted to use examination results as a measure of quality. And I think if we need to look at quality, we've got to go beyond the examination results. So, for example, if you look at tertiary work that actually goes on in tertiary institution, I think we need to find out from that sector whether the students they are getting now have the same knowledge and understanding as the students who they were getting before this policy. I think we also need to do that. So in that sense, it's not our education system does not end at the secondary school level. It goes beyond that. But more importantly, it also goes beyond further studies. It also goes beyond trying to find out if students have actually used or are using the knowledge and skills they've developed in secondary schools in real life situations and have become responsible adults and so on. So we need to look at all these factors before we then can say that quality has been maintained. Of course, if you're using examination results, then of course, then you'll be tempted to say that there is quality because students are passing exams and so on. But we need to go beyond that and find out whether students are actually able to apply, for example, the things they learn in school. It's very important. They are not just learning them to pass examinations, but they are learning this thing to be able to use these things in real life situations. And so I think the study should go beyond just the test results or examination results and find out what the kind of life that our graduates from the secondary schools actually.
Right. It's a good time to hear from Kwesi Kwarteng because he was the former spokesperson for the Ministry of Education. And at the time, I recall the conversation or the argument from government at the time was about, first of all, the results and also the enrollment, the numbers which have gone up significantly as one of the bases for which government has always argued that this was a successful program under the Akufo-Addo administration. But Kwesi, here you are with Prof telling us that, well, beyond the results as well, there's the issue about quality in other respects. Your take?
All right. Good morning to you and good morning to our respected panelists and, of course, our viewers. I'm glad to be here. Let me move straight to the question. Let me say that the biggest challenge of the free senior high school policy has not been those inherent challenges that came up with the implementation of the policy. But for me, if you ask me, especially having worked with the Ministry of Education, largely has to do with the politicization of it, particularly the politicization of the challenges that comes with it. Because I worked with the Ministry of Education for some couple of years, I noticed that if you look at the challenges within the education sector, i.e. at all levels, being basic, being secondary, being tertiary, we've all inherited systemic challenges. And interestingly, even if you look at the junior high school level, that is the weakest link within the education sector. But somehow, the conversation has always been narrowed down to the free senior high school policy. Of course, by political players and also by the media, because it generates the news, it generates a trend. Also because, by and large, it's a policy that came at the backdrop of a political promise. Some way, somehow, a political party enjoys from it. And maybe within the political environment that we have in this country, other political parties may also be disadvantaged from it. So there were sweeping comments, there were sweeping criticisms, but I'm happy that for the first time, my presentation will not be seen and somehow maybe framed as a defense to the policy. At least for now, I'm in the opposition. I can see Peter smiling. At least for now, I'm in the opposition. And the expectation is that we'll have a very open, dispassionate, and honest conversation. Well, if you ask me, education has always been centered on three key variables, which has to do with access, which has to do with quality, and also the last one has to do with relevance. It is a marriage of these three that gives effect to education, and not just any other education, but education that is quality and has an impact on socio-economic transformation. So I agree with all what the speakers have said, that yes, access is key, quality is key, and also the impact on our socio-economic transformation is also very key. If you look at it critically, one of the basic challenges that we have, or we had as a country at the senior high school level, had to do with access. Every year, you realize that about 100,000 students pass the BEC exams. And out of the number that passes, who are expected to move to the senior high school, get about 100,000 not getting access to the senior high school. So roughly, free SHS implementation is about 7 years old now. Cumulatively, if you want to use the face value figures, you may be looking at about 700,000 students, which ordinarily wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to the senior high schools. So the choice was to, as a government, whether or not you hide under the umbrella of a cut-off point system, where you look into the face of ordinary Ghanaians and say that you had 23, you had 26, you are not eligible to go to senior high school, whilst in truth and in all honesty, the challenge has nothing to do with the grade that the student had, but had more to do with governments and successive governments' inability to provide needed infrastructure. And of course, the second option also had to do with whether you take a very proactive, aggressive approach in giving opportunities for all these students to justify themselves. I am aware that there is also a requirement by the Constitution of Ghana. As to the debate of who started or who did not start, me, I'm not so much interested in that. I am more interested in the fact that we have such a policy and we can have conversations to improve it. So yes, at the time, the government then, which I had the opportunity to work in as a spokesperson of the Ministry of Education, implemented the free SHS and removed that barrier of access. But come to think of it, it depends on how you look at it as a state, whether you see education as an investment or just an expenditure. If you look at it as an expenditure, you may have every reason to say that, well, look, in a space of 7-8 years, you've spent about 9 billion or a little over 9 billion Ghana cedis to give education to about 3.5 million students in Ghana.
Yeah, Kwesi, for you, what's the biggest selling point for the free senior high school, aside, all the criticisms?
Well, that's why I indicated that education borders on access, quality, and relevance. In this context, it has to do much with opening access, but it's also important to add that it has not necessarily been opening access. You see, all over the world, the general template has always been that when there is access, quality reduces. And unfortunately, people even believe that when there is access, we may have about 120 or 200 students in a classroom. But in the case of Ghana, we were able to defy gravity. And through the novel intervention of the double track policy, we were able to still maintain access and at the same time quality.
I see.
Of course, I mean, as to conversation about what really entails quality is a conversation that we can all have as the discussion goes on.
Indeed.
But in London, I am saying that in terms of access is something that we were able to do significantly. In terms of quality, the numbers may speak for itself.
Right.
Not just quality, but the content was also something that was looked at when we spoke about STEM and all other discussions, which I believe that will all have an impact on our socio-economic transformation.
Dr. Peter Anti, you know, the then government saw the double track system as you know, part of the solution to the challenges that the free senior high school policy was facing. But at iFirst, I recall engaging you, and you still had challenges with that double track system. You know, now looking at where we are now with the policy, do we completely do away with the double track system?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your panel. It's on record that I'm the first person who wrote an article, got it published in most of the newspapers on double track. In fact, the document that was used to defend double track was authored by me. And at that time, I was in full support of the double track because we were faced with certain options that were technically not possible for us to achieve. Build more schools and accommodate these students, or ask the students to stay home whilst you try to build schools and then later accommodate them. Those were options that we were not ready to go with. So the only option that was productive and progressive was the double track option that would enable us to run a system whereby those who were not, who would not have had opportunity to access secondary education would be given an opportunity to do so. So we supported the implementation of the double track. Just that the way we implemented our double track here was a little bit different from how it's been implemented in places that they've done that, what they call the all year round schools. We realized that when you implement the double track, students have an opportunity to stay long vacation periods in the house. So there should be a kind of a linkage between that period between the students and the teachers, so that there will be that kind of constant interaction, monitoring, so that the students will not be moved away from the academic activities for 3-4 months like we are experiencing in the implementation of our double track. So there were certain things that were supposed to come with the implementation of the double track. Open more libraries, ensure that you have a lot of libraries open in most of your districts and communities, ensure that your online teaching is working, ensure that there are varied kinds of documents, textbooks, reference materials made available to the students, and ensure that there's some sort of interaction between the teacher and the students, even when the student is in the house. And that means that you have to have a technological system that would serve that particular purpose. We couldn't do most of these things. So at the end of the day, we have students staying in the house for 3-4 months without them having any serious academic work to do. Parents would then have to now find ways and means to ensure that their kids are academically active, or those who do not have would have to now go and then do other things that will bring income to them. So what we ended up achieving was widening the gap of inequality, because those who have the money would move their walls to extra classes and do other things. Those who didn't have would have to wait till school reopens, and then, or they would have to engage in other economic activities to make money. That was the biggest downfall or is the biggest downfall of the double track. So it becomes welcoming when you realize that after these years, most of the schools have been turned into the transition school system, and gradually we might be able to deal with this challenge of the double track. But I must say that what we have experienced with the free senior high school, its implementation and everything, is a lesson for those of us in education policy and policy analysis as to how not to implement a policy in education. Because policies in education have detrimental effects on the students if it is not implemented in a way that it is planned to. And the effects on these students will not be felt today or tomorrow. Sometimes it takes 10 years, 20 years, just like the benefits or the investment that you make in the students. So the investment that we are making in the free senior high school, the benefits will be seen 10, 20, 30 years to come. So if the policies are not walked through the right channels of policy implementation and policy discourse, it becomes difficult for you to achieve the objectives of the policy. And that is why, after 7-8 years of implementing the policy, it is not that we are having a comprehensive discussion about the policy that involves the government and all relevant stakeholders. And that shouldn't be a way of dealing with policies like this, because if you are not monitoring the policy from its inception, you are likely to get so many things wrong. And when the policy runs its full course, like the free SHS have done for almost 2 years, 2 times now,
right,
you have products out of the system who might have been harmed by the policy, but you were not able to rectify those kind of effect on them because you were not much monitoring the implementation of the policy along its implementation period.
Right.
So that is what we haven't done right with it, and hopefully, as we continue to talk about it, we'll be able to get some of these things right.
And to be fair, the double track system was not a broad stroke. This was for schools that were having, population challenges, I believe, because it wasn't for every school. Some schools had... Right.
Yes. It wasn't for every school. It was for schools that had a lot of people enrolling in there, and we needed to accommodate them.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm itching to hear from Professor Stephen Adaya, but before we do that, let's hear from Dr. Atefo as well, because Dr. Atefo is with Africa Education Watch. But Doc, you used to be a former director for the Ghana Education Service, I believe, in the northern region. And why that's so important is because of, for instance, what happens in urbanized areas as compared to rural communities. The experience of free senior high school in rural areas is much more of a joy than the urban areas where they are dealing with population challenges, because then you'd have to run double track. But in the rural communities, what's been the first-hand experience with the free senior high school policy?
Thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to extend greetings to the panelists, and especially to Widad. I miss her because we were together in Tamale, and so I know her very well.
Right.
Yes. We all know that free SHS, without doubt, has been very good for the nation. Nobody can disprove this. Free SHS has helped Ghana. At the time of its inception in 2017, the Human Capital Index, HCI, was so low. It was around 0.46%, and which means the next generation was going to suffer in terms of people who will be able to work in good health for the nation. So that was a good idea that it was introduced. Just like we look at history of education, that at any point in time, we sit back and then review and say, oh, let's change our curriculum. Let's change what we have now so that we can solve the emerging issues that is confronting the nation or whatever. So also free SHS was introduced. And we all know the advantages. People who never thought that they could have had the chance of entering the senior high school now have the chance. So there was increased access, and they were able to get a chance to enter the senior high schools of their choice. And we all know that in the rural areas where people could not even have access secondary education in the, let's say, highly endowed institutions.
Dr. Atefo, we seem to be having a challenge with your camera, the positioning. You'd have to sit up for us so we're able to, have a good experience with you via.
I'm sure it's okay.
Yeah, That appears to be better. But
right.
Yeah, you are then coming to my question about the experience for rural communities as compared to the urbanized areas. Yes.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, looking at the free SHS that we have been running, you see some students from the rural areas getting access to schools well endowed, like Achimota, Pusek, and other places. At least we have some cases like that. So that was also good. But the challenges that we may look at probably would be feeding. Those in the north would have loved to eat food from their area. Those in the south would have also loved to eat food from their area, but that was not possible. So when we come to the issues properly, we may be able to list most of them. But for the system of education to be sustained, it must be inclusive and equitable. Of course, we have to look at the rural-urban gap and try to bridge it. We have to look at people living with that's PWD, people living with these disabilities. Also, everybody must have the chance to participate and the responsiveness of it, so that the gap between the boys and girls could be bridged. And the problem with free SHS is 90% cash flow. It's 90% cash flow. 10% will be procurement problems. So if we are able to tackle this very well, we'll be able to sustain this free SHS.
Yeah, but when you say cash flow, to be fair, government in the previous administration has never, held back in terms of allocation.
No, the allocation, they were coming, but they were delayed sometimes. And it wasn't as it were, we need it today and it is there. Sometimes you have to complain and it will come. So if we are able to solve some of these problems that were associated, we will have a smooth free SHS program to continue.
And that's why I'm excited that you're all doing this with us. We're just looking at the next chapter of the Free Senior High School policy in the context of reviews and reform. Possibly, the government will be informing the way forward as to what will happen post the national conversation that's about to happen in the coming days. But I also want to hear from Professor Stephen Adai on this because we've heard from all our panelists express their concerns about the quality of food. Professor Fletcher talking about the fact that we need to go beyond just the results coming from the senior high schools. Some have spoken about finance, and the Honourable MP pointing as to what the NDC government is likely to do about the policy. But let's first of all take your view on the policy over the years, the last 8 years. What's been your assessment of it, and what do you think should inform the way forward?
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you got Honourable Kuma to come in, and also got Kwatin to give us another side, so that we have had
balance,
the two sides of the two tribes. But let me say that, first of all, I was not part in the design of the free SHS, but I wish I was. I could have added it to my CV because it's a good policy. I had the privilege, the day it was to be announced, to be invited with 6 other people to preview it. And I must say, the Americans have been saying that what they like most is peanut butter sandwich and jelly. And they say that there's nothing better than that. And I felt that it was quite good because I never went to secondary school. And if I had the free SHS, I think that I would have benefited, except that most likely I've been an engineer rather than an economist. And I like being an economist now than being an engineer. And my comment, because I was invited with 6 people to comment on it before it was, after a 2-hour preview. Right. And my question, my comment to His Excellency the President then is that this is excellent, but when you implement it, there will be challenges. But don't make it as if it's a doctrine and then allow the people who design it to debug it. Unfortunately, it was implemented, it had problems, and it became a doctrine, and nobody could talk about it unless there's a change of government. number two comment, broad one, is that I'm so glad that today both NPP and NDC are saying that free SHS is here to stay. It's so helpful because then we can talk about how do we tweak it to make it better. So I believe that is what we should be now dealing with so that all of them are on the same wavelength. I personally think that the challenges which are being faced are surmountable. And that is where we should all be looking. And let me tell you that I'm very biased. I'm associated with the university system, having taught University of Ghana for 7 years and also being a rector of GIMPA. But my real heart lies with pre-university education. Because when we get that right, almost the rest become easier to deal with. I am not boasting, but my wife and I discovered, and now we have done it, the book has been launched. We hope to give it to the Ministry of Education, whereby my 4 children were all taught to be literate by the age of 6. As a result, I don't remember ever looking after my children's homework. They never had afternoon classes, and yet all the 4 of them are scientists, top medical person, 2 engineers, 1 is the leading biology teacher, I'm proud to say, in the whole of Australia today.
I see.
And this shows that when you get the foundation right, the rest. And when we taught our other friends and they applied the same method, they got the same result, because initially they were saying, oh, you are a teacher, your wife is a teacher, that is why. And then they realized that they are not special. So one of the things which I will be sharing with you when I finish is the Papa and Nana series. The reason why it hasn't been sent to the Ministry of Education is that it's been internationally patented, but we won't ask you to pay for anything to do it. Now comes, so let me say that the free SHS has done us a lot of good, which I'm coming to, but has taken attention from the primary school. Because when basic education, of course, the MPP made secondary school also basic, so therefore, but we talk about the old basic education. When you get that right, in fact, last year, we are now in 2025, my wife and I have been led through our Ghana Christian International School to open a special primary kindergarten school. And I go there every other week in my village and sit with them. And the way 6 years are reading. So, but on the free SHS, which we are on, I think that the challenges have been mentioned already. I think that was good for the access. I don't think that anybody can be left behind. And as much as I supported the 3-year system of NDC, I don't think that their progressive one is as good as the starting it and dealing with the problem. Because other than that, you can continue to be progressive, and meanwhile, some children will have lost out.
But you acknowledge it was the start of it.
Yes, they started it, but what I'm saying is that it was good to take that bold step and deal with the problems rather than to be progressive. Now, the issues which have been mentioned, I won't go over it. There must be a immediate, medium-term, and a long-term solutions to be found. Immediately, the government, and I can tell you that NDC is not going to have much money to be able to solve all the problems. I think that we should see how we can bring parents and guardians and PTAs to help with immediate effect. Because let me tell you, I've just spoken, not because you invited me, just in the past week, 2 parents, and one, I will mention where their children are. One is a girl just completed Accra Girls, and one in Presec. They pay 400 Ghana cedis per subject per term
For extra
classes. So they are already paying 10,000, and in one case up to 20,000 in order. If you had asked them to contribute 5,000 so that the whole system can be improved. So we must immediately look at. The second thing we must look at, these are the short-term ones. Right. I'll come to the medium term. Yes. I'm not going to talk about all the problems which you therefore talked about. The second thing is that, listen, we have for some time have to maintain the double track. There's nothing we can do about it, because even if tomorrow you want to get the E buildings, there still will not be enough. So how
because of the enrollment.
Yes, it will take some time, and we'll come back to the medium term where the E classrooms and other things must be dealt with. But immediately, how to make the double track better and work. And I think that one of them mentioned, for example, while they are away at home, something can be done so that actually they can continue classes. These days, and sometimes Sankofa is good. When we were young, we had the radio box. And then there was afternoon classes. We were actually listening in Shiromwasi to education on the radio. We can do something which will engage them while they are at home. The third has to do with the feeding, because the feeding is very critical. I am not close enough to say that the government may have the money. But if the government doesn't have the money, for goodness sake, if the children at home, they are fed by their parents. So the parents, you can have free tuition, free teaching, which is the most paying things, and ask them to contribute to the feeding when your child is in the boarding house. I would even dare to say the government will only give one free meal so that the day students and the boarders will get a quality meal, and if you structure the meal better, they have all the nutrients they need for the day. But those who have access to, must be equitable, who have access to the boarding school must be willing to pay for their children's breakfast and lunch so that we are all equitable. You are getting free. They must even pay for rent. But if they are not going to pay for rent, then going forward, I think, and it's interesting, this is as way back as 1980 when Riyad Marajan was the Ghana ambassador to Australia. I was a student there, and we were discussing education. And I said that we must go to a system also whereby, especially the grade A's and the grade A school immediately, let us make sure that government gives scholarship to all the first students. They do their local examination. You don't go and do it. You take somebody from Shiromwasi and say that you should go and compare with Morning Star. Charlie, Shiromwasi and Morning Star cannot be the same, or Ghana Christian High. So you say that the first JHS student in every, from Kita to Paga, will be given the entrance and free scholarship to go to the grade A school. You give about 15% to the local catchment areas so that we can also make sure that grade A is not for certain people, but for A. And then they remain about 50% of the grade A school. Let the people are willing to pay. Let them go and pay to go there and then use it. It's voluntary. You don't need to. And they use the money to help with the others, because we shouldn't continue to have a situation when some are A, some are B, some are C, and some are D. Is there a E there? Yes. It's unfair. So we want all to be A. So if you want to go to the A, those parents who want their children to go to Wegehe, as for us, it's Wegehe. You pay your 20,000 and go, take your child. We have reserved 50% for you. So that money, we are going to make grade E also quality, so that everywhere. But let me conclude here, and then this is the short term. Right. Later on, if you want me, I'll come to the medium term, and there's a long term one. But when you are on a panel, you must. The Lord put on my heart and my wife 25 years ago to start Ghana Christian International High School. And we are not advertising because I don't need more students. They have overfull. And we don't go to 120 per class. But 10 years ago, I felt that what we should do for my community is a quality day secondary school and where you mentioned honorable, then this, I restrict it to only the 12 villages around Shiromwasi. We bring the students there. And that school has everything. We have world-class internet connectivity. It was Tigo was one of them who did it for us for only 38,000 cedis. So they have their library, their computer is everything else. And it's a community school. The students from the area don't come to live there, but we have provided accommodation for all the teachers. And I can say with pride that the past 5 years, we have turned the results, WASI, better than any secondary school in Ghana, including Achimota. Generally, we have, for the 6 years, 4 years, 100%. 100% means they pass all the 8 subjects the other day. And then, for 6 years, only 5 students didn't get all 8. And most of them nobody has ever gotten less than 6. So you can have quality day schools and make the free secondary school really quality for everybody. And the medium term, I will come later.
Right. I think the perception is, because largely if you talk about high school, the experience is better when you are in the boarding house. So maybe that's been the perception.
And that's why I have proven that we have proven, and if anybody wants to do it, I'll show you where to go. Just between Fosu and Kumasi, just midway, is Ghana Christian International High School, Shiromwasi campus.
And you see an
go
example
and find out whether it is, or go to WAEC.
Right. The common denominator I'm seeing through the presentations made so far is the issue about funding, and that's the elephant in the room. So let's move to that chapter. The point about how much parents should be committing in terms of what we're classifying as help. Are we asking them to pay fees, or we're asking them just to part away with a little? Because when you do that, you might end up taking away the essence of the free senior high school, which of course there's a political promise to it. So when you tell your electorates that it's free, they're expecting that it should...
Can I tell me before yes. Because I don't want to politicize. I think that every child must have free tuition. So there should be no fee for everybody, except that if you select the special secondary school and you say that if you want to pay the 50%, that one, because we are taking that to robbing Peter to pay Paul, it will go to an education fund. But everybody should have free. In fact, in our school, there's free tuition. Everybody has books. Also for free, because they need the books to study. And of course, tuition comes with the teachers. And that one should not be negotiable. When it comes to the other things, that's where we can say that parents can, and most of them are willing to make contribution. The feeding, the school uniform. Of course, in us, we also pray, they pay, actually they make contribution, they pay 2,100 a year, that's 700 a term. But that is peanut. It doesn't even meet a quarter of their needs. But they have free food, lunch. They have free clothing. I don't think that in the national one, we should take it out of it. Right. Parents can, and they must be, the parents will be able to feed them. I will always go for
but on the feeding, you're saying it could be once.
So that the day and the borders. But if your child is there, if you are at home, you have given breakfast and dinner. So therefore you must be. So the free must, what they need academically to survive. And that should be.
That's where the cost element should come through. Honorable, for you, should we be asking them to pay beyond that?
All right. Let me, before I come to that, plead, my brother Kwating, when he started, he said he never saw any challenge. His only challenge he saw was political. But he ended up answering. And Professor Taufu and the rest all, including Prof and all of us, you see, what I'm saying is that we must be genuine with our system and then build up from there. If we say it's political, no, it's not political. But they are the realities. Before Nanado left off, he saw that heads of Assistant Senior High, CHAS, came out and said the government was owing perishables for more than some terms into millions of cedis. You saw them come out with a letter. WAEC, the West Africa Examination Council, came out that we owe them as a nation, I won't say only government, we owe them almost 180 million Ghana cedis. So these were some of the challenges. So if my brother is still insisting it's only political, he should go back as the PR. And he knows, even sporting activities, we gathered at Koforidua, and they had to tell students, go home, no money. You remember, Koforidua inter-schools, secondary, senior high schools. We couldn't handle sporting activities.
So your point is
my
there was a
brothers
challenge.
to know that there were challenges, not only political, but there were genuine challenges. So that will build up from there. Back to the funding. In fact, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama on the NDC are saying that we will look at how to undo the double track system. And by that, they are going to include the private schools. They are going to extend free senior high to the private schools. So they will see those private school proprietors, sit down with them and see the areas they could collaborate so that the double track system will go off. At least that's one of the ways funding, maybe building new infrastructure and other things will be curtailed, at least giving us...
So when we add more private schools...
very good.
Yeah, but the point about, you know, the interest of the students, because some of the students, for them, high school should be public because of the names associated with you know, some of the schools that we're talking about.
It's about access, expanding the access by way of infrastructure, solution to the infrastructure.
But that is still public, in the sense that, for example,
government
if you take St. Andrews in Fosu and few areas, and the government says that
I'm adopting this,
I'm sponsoring students and paying the fees that you are charging, is the state government. So you can partner with the private sector.
Idea
stay public.
of more or less, if you use the funding in there to reduce funding. Are you getting me? We are also to look at the sustainable funding. It is believed that the current one was tied to our oil, and you know we have dwindling oil revenues. So far, the oil revenue we are getting, when you come to hear of Tallow and other oil companies trying to, and even our electricity problems, we are owing them a lot. So that means they will be dwindling
for other sources of funding, right?
USAID just came out that they are cutting off supply to Ghana, an amount of over $156 million. And the education component is there. Health, about $56 million. Government is not going to get money again. So as a nation, just like Prof and others are saying, we must sit up and accept some cost sharing somewhere. For me, that is the way to go.
Do you think that it should be standardized, or we vary it based on the
I'm
region?
sure most of these things will be revealed when we go for the education forum. And the forum, I will advise, we shouldn't send only professors and education committee members, and we should invite parents who are the rural areas, the yam farmers, the beans farmers, the cocoa yam, let them be part of the forum. Let them also contribute to the issue. Are you getting me? Let them also contribute, because the ideas they have, the tomato farmers, the market, the traders, they have good ideas. A lot of them children are in the senior high schools. I am a beneficiary of the free senior high, my children. 2. Three of them.
Right.
One just completed. Yes, I am. I am a beneficiary. But let me tell you the truth. Weekly and monthly, the money are sent to school. Almost every time that the machito is finished, I say,
are you drinking?
Excuse me, are you getting me? That is the reality. We must face it. One is on national service now. So I'm a beneficiary. The pioneer is one of the pioneers.
Right.
The sister is also in UDS now. The third one is in Wisconsin.
But when you say that,
so
parents
I am
yes. When you say that, and I've heard Prof also say that, when you say parents are willing to share the cost, is that the reality for every?
Sorry if I say parents are willing. I'm saying parents may have to be willing.
Okay.
to support, as we are all.
The reason why I'm asking that is because the experiences may be different for the parents.
I think that the parents also have various levels of parenting. But there's no parent today whose child is in the free SHS who at least does not spend 5,000 a year. There's not one of them. And I'm talking about people, because in my village, I go there every fortnight, and I see people who go to free SHS, and we charge 2,100, that's 700 a term. When they are going, they spend about 5,000 on their prospectus before they go.
5,000, 7,000.
And they spend not less than 1,000. These are the peasant farmers. So the
high-end schools.
The government is really doing a lot, but the parents are already complementing, except that it's imbalanced. And now and one of the dangers of the current free SHS is this: the rich are able to pay the 300, 400 for the extra tuition, and about those who fail, still about 35%, even in their best case scenario, fail. They are coming from those who cannot pay for the afternoon classes.
So we complicate the problem for them.
Africa, Africa Education did a document on
that,
on the average parents pay indirectly. And it is around 4,000 to 7,000 per student. What parents indirectly pay in the name of their children still being free HSS. And it has also been lowering. The funding to the education sector has been lowering. First, it was 3.5% in 2017. As at this 2024, it has reduced it 2.4%. So with the world economic challenges, what the President Trump has come out with, that they are cutting U.S. aid and other aid to Africa. It is not so. Excuse me. To which nobody is not somebody who is now coming to show the little one where God is. It is for us to sit as a nation and now say, look, let's be truthful to ourselves. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's understand something somewhere. So the forum, and we should try to be there. And let it not be that is for NDC, is for a different political party. Let all the political parties participate. Let the civil society organization, media, or Prof. I know you might have been invited. If not to, please be part of it, because and let the National Development Planning
invitation started, I don't know about it.
And we should let the National Development Planning Commission own it. Are you getting me? So that no government comes afterwards to say they are changing whatever
what has been discussed.
I see. Whatever we are going to discuss at that educational forum should be all-inclusive, and National Development Planning Commission finally owns it.
And it's good that we're starting the conversation from here. Let me bring in Kwesi Kwarteng, because Kwesi, going forward, bipartisan support for the policy and its reform will be required. Are we getting that commitment from where you belong, your party?
Yes, Ekekwa, especially let it be on record that the Honorable Kumo of the NDC has proposed a cost-sharing approach. Let it be on record. Now that he wants to do politics with the which is against what they campaign, and which is against what is captured in their manifesto. So let it be on record. But I hope you guys populate that for Ghanaians to see what's
let me say, I have my manifesto doesn't say so.
He's challenging you on that.
My manifesto doesn't say so, Kwesi.
Don't
I will read the manifesto verbatim, and no cost sharing is here. I'm building the point on Prof submission.
Let's move on, Kwesi.
Good.
I am saying that, I happen to be on Zoom, so respectfully, you allow me to flow. I'm sure you are in the still more time to correct it. I am saying that it was something that you said it is already in the air, but let it be on record. Unless, of course, you are disassociating yourself from it, then we know that is the way to go.
Yes, I'm disassociating myself.
Now you're creating a lot of
everything here. I've been writing everything here, so it's not like
the manifesto is here, Kwesi.
You're taking notes, and I'm sure you'll be writing yourself.
Resetting Ghana. Anybody can go and Google.
Let's move on then.
Are you going to give me another time?
Yes, no. You have the time. Just move on.
Okay, very well. Secondly,
these two tribes.
I mean, for purposes of clarity, I never said there are no challenges within the free senior high school space.
Wow, sure.
I was even the first person to even admit that the challenges within the education sector are systemic. And not only is it only limited to the free senior or exclusive to the free senior high school policy, but even beyond that, you go to the basic and the tertiary level. So let me also put that correction. But what I said was that the biggest challenge, so far as the policy is concerned, is not only about the inherent challenges that comes with the implementation of the policy, but also the politicization of it. It is a more reason why you have the Honorable Kumar politicizing calendar issues, knowing very well that the whole of 2020 students did not go to school, and for that matter, our calendar misaligned, and the Ghana Education Service then needed to realign our calendar. But yesterday he plays politics with it. Yes, food. Nobody is saying that we have a perfect system with regards to the food issue or food situation. But you see, if we are to rely on a statement by Charles alone, it is also important for me to just draw attention to just one of them. Recently, when we were leaving office, Charles laid a claim that there is no food in the schools and that students should come with their own food. It took the current government about 2 weeks to take only 2 food items to the schools. So my question is, before those 2 food items were distributed to the schools, what were the students eating? And even after that, students couldn't have reliably relied on only 2 food items. So some of these conversations, when we are having it, we must decouple the politicization of it and speak within a very honest perspective. Again, you speak about double track. I have always taken the position, and I'll repeat myself again, that double track is not a curse, as how it's painted to look. If there has been any good intervention so far as the free senior high school policy is concerned, it's the double track. If, of course, you may have issues like Dr. Peter Anti raised on the implementation of the double track itself. But you see, double track is the only system that allows even the ordinary students from the rural areas, from the peri-urban areas, to have access to the schools in the urban areas. You see, I've always maintained that when you paint the picture as if double track is a curse, it's not. Let me tell you, in Ghana, if you look at our senior high schools, we do not really have much problem with space in a simple terms. Because if you look at enrollment every year, last year, for instance, we had about 550 students that were eligible to be placed in senior high schools. But the number of available spaces were around 650,000. So even if we are to place every student evenly in the schools, you have an excess space of about 100,000. But the question is, yes, still double track is there. The reason has more to do with the placement system that we use, the choice system, where many students who passes their exams may opt for the category A schools or the high-performing schools, and you may have to place them. So when you talk about double track or removing double track, we're just building infrastructure. You may build the infrastructure and students will not even want that school. You place them there, they will not go. And they will still be crowded in those high-performing or the overly subscribed schools. So yes, I agree with Prof. that at some point, whilst you are maintaining the double track, the only way to do away with the double track sustainably is also to improve the other schools so that if students does not get, let's say, a school like Wegehe, he can get a school that is almost equal or closer to Wegehe.
I see.
So we can run very sweeping comments and it may not be within that context. Again, I think just a quick one to Prof. Prof also spoke about the fact that parents who wants to pay, especially within the category A school, must be encouraged to pay. I bet to respectfully differ, because for me that will amount to educational apartheid, where you are limiting good performing schools to only parents that have the money. It means that, I mean, if you are from my village like Asante Achim Domiabra, where averagely almost every day is a peasant farmer or subsistence, a peasant farmer, and cannot raise about 20,000 to pay Gehe or Presek Legong, it essentially means that if you are coming from such background, you may not have the opportunity to be in those schools. So we must look at it well. I do not have any problem with cost sharing or parents coming in to support the free senior high school policy. But come to think of it, ever since the free senior high school was introduced, we have about 9 billion Ghana cedis there about that has been used.
is a suggestion that if the free senior high school was not introduced, this money will be standing somewhere, and all of a sudden, all other problem within the education sector, all other levels will be curtailed. I don't subscribe to that argument.
Yeah.
Can I proceed?
Yes. You can just land on that.
We also have to understand the informal economy that we are as a country, where we can look into Dr. Peter's auntie's face and tell him that, Doc, because you work at UCC, controller pays you, we're able to track your monies or your earnings or income at the end of the month. So for that matter, you are rich. But then you go to, let's say, Makola, you may not be able to track the income of the market seller there or the seller there, who probably may even be earning more. And for that matter, such a person may not be eligible to pay for his children's fee. So we need to have a comprehensive data on the income and earnings of every parent. Okay. And for that matter, we are able to track and say that you should be able to pay, you should not be able to pay all this.
Right.
But the question is, before then, were we going to deny students access to education till we have fixed all those things? Clearly, no. So I believe that some of these conversations on review, some of these conversations on cost sharing, as Honorable Kuma rightly indicated that he's trying to run away from because he doesn't want to make the news. Maybe subsequently
that's you trying to drag him along. Your point. But
if he wants to dissociate himself, fine. But he said it.
well, let's not go there because we need a bipartisan support for this. So, Kwesi, thank you. What I want to do, I feel I'm leaving out our audience. So what I'll do now is to perhaps open the floor. But before I do that, let me give a minute each to our other colleagues online. And then, Prof, you might want to start off at the point he's talking about, the possibility of an educational appetite. Just briefly, your point on that. The fact that if you exclude some people, they might never have the opportunity of attending these grade A schools.
Well, I would like to invite Kwaku to go and see Kwesi, to go to Wegehe and Aburi Girls and Presec when they are having the day, and you see that still there's some appetite going on. You see their car. The other day I had the misfortune of passing by Aburi when they were visiting, and you can see that the cars there and the number of proportion of those people are not from Ramwasi or from your village. All that I'm asking for is this. If, say, at this moment, I can tell you that 50% of all the students at Presec and at Chimota, their parents, will be willing to contribute 20,000 for the place to be better. For the other 50%,
who may not be privileged.
Who may not be privileged, but to say that you will not allow them to contribute, to me, there's something wrong, and they are pleading with you. I think that what you have to do, and I mentioned, then you are limiting the number. And not only will others benefit, but you are also getting money to help the gradee to at least come to see.
So that they could
So you are looking at it in a comprehensive way. It's not a matter of appetite.
Okay.
But at this moment, why is it that Wegehe is full with people, and then you go to them, and you are saying that there are some places, 150,000 places, which are not being taken. They are not being taken because the facilities are so bad.
Even 2 billion. Going to 200,000.
Okay, so Professor Fletcher, you're still with us, I believe. Brief comments. Let me take that of yours, Dr. Tefua, and then Peter Anti, and then we can open the floor. Let me start off with you, Professor Fletcher. Yes, on the point about...
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Yes, Prof. Adai and Kwesi and also my colleague, the MP, I think they've all said something that I want to actually, especially Prof. has taken the wind out of my sails. And so I'm going to suggest a combination of the three they've said. So the question is this, do we need to review? Yes, we need to do. And I agree that tuition should continue to be free for all. That is very important. And I think we also then try to use means testing. This is what Kwesi was trying to do. we need to use a means testing approach. And if we need to give state support for boarding, then it has to go to only needy students. In other words, yes, parents should be encouraged to support. And there are some parents who cannot in any way support or support it anyway. So first of all, we need to say that yes, tuition fees should be free, but those other things, we need to ensure that if there's going to be state support, it has to be for only needy students. And so
yeah, but the targeting, the targeting now is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That I mean, because says something about trying to find out what the income of every parent is. I mean, you could get that through some means. I'm not sure exactly how you're going to do that, but we need to do that. But also, it doesn't take away the fact that there are parents who are prepared to support. And listening to the conversations, particularly Prof. Adai's submission, I agree that some parents really want to support. It's just that the means of doing that is what they don't have. And so if there is any opportunity for parents to support one way or the other, then I think it's important for us to encourage them to do so. It does not mean that every parent should support. Yeah. It's possible that in a particular school you have maybe 5,000 students, you probably get about 100 parents who want to support genuinely. I think it's important for us to encourage that and then find a way of, I said, trying to find exactly how much each parent will give by finding a way of means testing every situation so that when it comes to, because it's not a case where you are going to ask every parent to contribute the same amount of money. I don't believe in that at all. What I do believe in, there are some parents who can even pay more than you ask them to do. Let's start from there, and then let's find a way of identifying the needy students. You can find them. I mean, in every school you can even if it was people were paying fees, you could always identify the needy students in any particular school. That's not very difficult to do at all. So let us consider encouraging parents to support. Okay. Let us make tuition free for everyone, and then find a way of identifying these needy students and supporting them. All other students should be supported by their parents who can do so. Thanks.
Dr. Anti, you have any thoughts on that? Dr. Peter Anti, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, of course. I think that this conversation would have been easier if we were about to implement this policy for the first time. Now, when a policy is being implemented for almost 8 years, and despite the challenges and ups and downs, the government have been able to sustain the policy without asking parents to pay. It takes a different dimension altogether, and I'm a little bit surprised with the position that has been espoused by the honorable member there, because his party has got 4 years to be in power. His party, before coming to power, has been accused that when they get to power, they will alter the current form of the free senior high school and ask parents to pay. I think the last thing that this party would want, this government would want to do is to prove their political opponents right. That is why, for me, for some time now, I'm thinking that there should be another way to ensure that additional monies are raised to support the policy rather than asking parents to pay. Now, in 2017, when this policy was being rolled out, I talked about the equity principle in funding, especially when you look at the theme, the 3 themes of the policy: access, equity, and quality. I raised serious concerns about the equity mode of funding and the equality mode of funding that the policy had embraced. And I was thinking that it was at that time that we would have had that conversation to ensure that we implement the policy using the equity financing model. We didn't do that. We went straight ahead and did equality. So if a new government comes that have been accused that they would change they would ask parents to pay, and that government has 4 years to be in power, and they need to be in power to be able to do whatever they want to do, I'm thinking that we should go back to 2017 again and look at what the Minister of Finance then said about other modes of funding the policy. He indicated in his budget that was read, I think, in September or so, that there would be a voluntary fund that would be instituted and managed at the national level. and that fund will enable people who would want to support the implementation of the policy pay or contribute to that particular fund. I think that is one of the surest way to go. So Prof. Fretter is talking about parents contributing, Prof. Adair is talking about parents contributing. I'm thinking that we should establish a voluntary fund, a national education voluntary fund, and then make it available for parents or anybody, not even parents, anybody who would want to contribute to that fund to pay something to it. Then we'll use that money.
Are you sure parents will be willing to pay into that fund?
That is why the problem is. So when you are not doing it voluntarily, then you're going to force. Then you're going to force. Then you're going to force parents to pay.
Dr. Andy. Yeah. Oh, Dr. Andy.
Yeah.
I think that basically, if you do a fund, parents pay where their child is. So you can still let them pay to the school. Money is fungible. So if you go and give 20,000 to Achimota, so that the government doesn't have to put that 20,000, they have paid. But parents are so attached to where their wards are, they would never do it to a general.
Prof, I agree. And that is why I think that the modalities of operating such a fund should be made. Would be put together. But I'm saying that strategically, it is not wise for the government to seek to ask parents to pay as a matter of compulsion, because it will be politically suicidal for them in the next 3-4 years.
Honorable Kumar, your take on that?
Yes. Doc, I'm sure, let me make it clear that I never sat on this set and said
Question will come for you again.
Okay. My comment was based on Prof's submission.
Right.
And I related it to the owings that the previous government left for the nation. Are you getting me? Yeah. So, Honorable Kumar didn't say that the NDC government says they are coming to let parents have cost sharing.
Please capture me, I'm asking a question.
If my money...
It's good you are clarifying.
Very good. Our issue is on resetting Ghana.
Yes.
The manifesto is there. Well printed. Yeah. Just go and Google it.
Kwesi, you have a question?
I want to find out from... I want to find out from Honorable whether his members are putting pressure on him.
Nobody. I've not read any. I've not read anything from my WhatsApp here. But you are rather dragging me into politics because you started by saying that the major decision was.
I suggest that both of you hold on at this moment.
It
is our children. Yes, it's our children.
People are concentrating, so don't go there.
About MPP and DC, our children's welfare.
So let's move on.
You have closed your mind to all the challenges you left for us to solve.
Okay, here we go.
And you are quickly.
We want to avoid the politics. So let me bring in Dr. Atefua. Great. That point is well noted. Dr. Atefua, yeah, you heard the politicians.
I made a statement that the challenges we have with free SHS is mainly cash flow. And so if government is able to commit 20% of the national budget, in fact, our expenditure into education, these are national, international benchmarks, or 4% of our GDP into our education, according to UNESCO, we will be able to do a lot to support and to maintain, to strengthen this free SHS policy that we have. And also, we need to also look elsewhere to find extra funding and also to get a framework that will bring the Parent-Teacher Association into the system, the old students into the system to support what we need to maintain our free SHS. If you go to most of the endowed schools, what the old students are doing is marvelous. Go to Presec and see. They are doing a lot. Go to Achimota, go to other big, well-endowed institutions. The old students are doing extremely well. And we need to get a framework that will bring these people into the mainstream to support or in the management.
I see. Okay. And that's why I'm grateful we're doing this with all of you, because you have immense experience in the area of education. But let's bring in my audience because they've been listening to you, they've been listening to the conversation, and perhaps You have a question, just go ahead and ask. Yes, please introduce yourself first, and then you can direct the question at any of them. Yes.
Okay, sir. Please, my name is Seth Kobna, SHS Access. So my question is to Prof. Adai. Okay. He said he was part of a 6-member committee that were asked to review the free SHS before it was implemented.
No.
Not that.
I said that the day it was being launched.
The day it was being launched.
I had a preview and I gave my comment on it. So I wasn't part of those who formulated it. I wish I had, but I didn't have the privilege.
Yeah, but perhaps you have a question.
Yeah, but
because
go ahead.
My question to him was that, was the government duly informed of the challenges that this free SHS will incur?
Okay.
Because looking at the challenges popping up now, it looks as if, to me, I believe it was poorly planned and the execution wasn't right.
So were the challenges anticipated? That's your question, right? I'm sure Kwesi is also with that, so he would be able to bring some perspectives to that one as well. Any other questions? Okay, while we wait for that, any takers before we go? Okay, Prof, probably you might want to have your take. Well, okay, let's take this then.
Please, to Ishmael.
Okay.
My question to Honorable. Please, I would want to know if there are any plans to conduct regular assessment and evaluation to identify areas for improvement.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so we'll take 2 for now. Please prepare. If you have any questions, we'll come back again. So let's deal with the anticipated challenges, Prof. Because you gave that feedback to the president at the time.
Yes, definitely. I knew because Kenya had implemented, many countries have implemented free SHS. And immediately you have so much overwhelming access. But those other countries, first of all, they didn't have a problem Ghana has. Ghanaians all want to be educated in boarding schools. No country in the world has been able to educate his young people all in boarding school. You go to America, Britain, Europe, less than 5% go to boarding schools. Every one of them goes to quality day school where they live. So we are trying to a colonial legacy, and of course, those who went to Achimota and Fancy Pima and also attached to it. In fact, more.
What may have accounted for that?
Because the colonial needed only a few people to serve in the civil service as clerks. They weren't going to educate every Ghanaian. So that is where. And then, of course, the boarding system after independence helped because people from Gambaga, from Aflao, from Ashanti came to, and it helped really in our national identity. And so, in fact, until recently, and that's why I've been saying that I'm proud of my village of Shilomasi, everybody thought that I'm an Eve. In fact, I'm sure that was the basis for which this one who was the immediate past of petroleum was Fable. But Fable, the week before he started his Stephen Ade, it's not a professor at that things, says that I have insulted Ashantis because I said that I gave an Ashanti proverb, and which he didn't understand, not being Ashanti. He thought that it was an insult to Ashantis. But I'm sure he was thinking that I'm an Eve because all my friends
think that you are
were Eves.
Interesting.
And that is what was good about the boarding system. But you cannot, because the boarding system allows us to integrate, you cannot make it a permanent one.
So how do we make up for the diversity then? If
the diversity, eventually we'll meet in the universities. And also the quality of education.
Service.
And the quality of education. When we were in primary school and middle school, there was civics and other things. So you knew about Ghana and everything else, and it's the quality of education you give.
So the university could
and the university and the higher education will allow for us. So yes, the challenges, other people didn't have as big challenge as ours because they weren't trying to force everybody to go to boarding school. So that's, but irrespective of that, they had challenges. When tomorrow you have 50% increase in your boarding or any day school, you have a challenge. And my advice was that when the challenges come, Ghanaians are intelligent enough to solve the challenges. But when you make it a political doctrine,
that is the issue.
This is what we have done, is in case. Thank God now we have opportunity to discuss it because we couldn't even discuss it. That's what. So they should have anticipated it. I anticipated it, and I believe that those who were, and the fact that there should be a review should be done regularly. I run a 2,000 student private school. Fortunately, we don't have more than 30 students in a class. But every year I have to review it. Why? Because you have to improve it, and there are challenges. These days, the young people who are coming, some of them, you don't know where they were born by mass. Their parents spoil them. Passa. People come to boarding school, they cannot make their bed. So you anticipate it, and you deal with it. So the review should be not continuous and annually used.
Right. I'll come to you, Honorable, for that response to the question. But, Kwesi, the question about, anticipating the challenges, did you do that?
Well, let me put it this way, that no policy is immune to challenges. I mean, even sometimes the solutions you even use in addressing some challenges that comes within the implementation of policy itself can have its own challenges. Just like the free maternal care, I mean, you may anticipate the challenges, but you may still get some challenges. You can list all the other interventions or policies or programs. They will still all have their challenges. But you see, let me also hasten to add that let us also not create an impression that the fact that we allow parents to pay or we withdraw government's intervention in terms of monetary contributions from the free senior high school conversation will all of a sudden do away with the challenges. Let's not create that impression. We should be very cautious with that. When challenges comes up, I am of the view that we should have broader conversations about it. We should be open, we should be very honest, and address it. And I'm sure that is what we are doing now. So it is not the case that we did not anticipate challenges, but I mean challenges has always been part of implementation. It just has to do more with the openness of leadership to admit same and address them.
Okay. Honorable Kumar, the second question was to you.
The second question is whether we are any regular plans for areas of implementation, the challenges that, So our manifesto answers what we have, as many as 19 issues that we are envisaging.
Okay, 19.
19, yeah. But for now, maybe because I may not be able, but there is on page 92 of our Resetting Ghana Agenda Manifesto. If you Google, you see it. And a few of them, number one, we are saying that that's 5.1.3, secondary education. The next NDC government will, one, will abolish the double-track system to restore stable academic calendar. That is one of the loopholes we have seen about the current one and what we intend the NDC government hopes to do. The second thing is extend free senior high to cover students in private senior high schools to do away with the double-track. Like I already mentioned it. We are looking at how to collaborate with private institutions so that they expand the student intake there. Then three, provide dedicated and sustainable funding so that the dwindling oil supply we have in Ghana. Currently, the sponsorship is tied to oil revenue. So that means the NDC government is looking at other sources of revenue that will help sustain the free senior. 4, embark on an emergency infrastructure drive, including the completion of the abandoned E-blocks. It's not all the E-blocks that have been completed by Nanado's regime. They have done some, they've not finished. But as they started...
E-blocks were not abandoned, if I'm to know.
Kwesi, can you let me finish, Mama?
Kwesi,
Can you let me finish? We are not on political platform, please. 5, decentralized procurement of food and other basic supplies to ensure timely food supply and improve the quantity and quality of food. The current system we have, they had to get a buffer stock. They had a free senior high secretariat. where they mobilize food and then they have to redistribute. I'm from Kintampo. Yeah. It was centralized.
Right.
We are talking of decentralization. I'm from Kintampo. Kintampo market, we have yam, beans, all sort of food there. Just like Kintampo Senior High and Jema Senior High, even Nkransa.
But on that point, I guess the head teachers were allowed to do perishable.
Very good.
Were they not allowed to do perishable?
The perishable, but that was a minute factor.
Okay.
The major expenditure was on food supply. Okay. And even the perishables, we said that Kwesi is aware, the heads of schools came out. So NDC is saying that no, let's improve the local economy. Okay. Let the market woman in Kintampo market get the value for money for selling yam there.
Okay.
So that the headmaster and the beza and the matron go to the market and buy from them.
Okay.
This is what NDC wants to do.
Because we can't do all 19, maybe we'll come back.
Very good. So I
want to take some more questions.
Yes.
And then
maybe let me end with this.
Okay, so you can prepare.
Reform secondary education curriculum to integrate STEM, agriculture, TVET, and other things inside. So we have a lot there that NDC hopes to have.
Yes.
And I'm inviting Kwesi, be there. Come for the forum.
Kwesi will come. Kwesi will be there. Yeah. So let's do some more questions. Yes. Please introduce yourself and then you can ask.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Ernestina Bilifu. And to Honorable, my question is, you said in your manifesto, in the reform of the SHS, you will be abolishing the double track system. So my question is, what are the strategies putting in place to phase out the double track system, and how will the government manage the transition back to the single track system?
Because obviously the numbers are increasing. So
yes.
Yeah.
So already the answer is in the question.
Any more?
Let's take more.
Yes. So any more? Yes. Let's just go behind. There's a gentleman behind. Yes.
My name is Abaji Asari Samo, and my question also goes to Honorable.
Yes, good.
Would you support an education levy to help fund the free SHS?
Just come again with that one.
Would you support an education levy to help fund the free SHS?
Okay, and let me get you clear. Is this going to be different from, say, the fund where parents will contribute? That's what we're speaking about.
It's
then.
quite
so
different.
This should be a levy on every Ghanaian.
Yes, please.
Okay, to support. Yeah. Okay, like a tax measure.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes.
My name is Atiako, and my question is to Prof.
No, just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes.
My question is to Prof. Earlier, he said, okay, for me, I'm trying to say, I think free SHS, there should be a cutoff point for students, because
it shouldn't be free for all. Yeah.
Yes, for all. Right. Because everybody thinks I'm going to free SHS, so probably I grade 36, I grade 16, I grade 6, they could go to an A class. And with that, I think they are being selfish on the teachers and the school. Why am I saying this? In a sense that the school's ranking drops drastically. And let's say me, right. I grade 6, and an aggregate 36 students is with me in the same class. And these 36 students, they come in for the challenging courses like business and science. So if I'm getting it in class and the other students is not getting it in class, the teacher has to make sure
that everyone
is getting it. So with that, we are lacking. So I think there should be a cutoff point for every student. Let's say if it's 6 to 30.
Okay.
From 30, you are not going to.
So it's about streamlining the system. And Prof, maybe we could start off from there before I come to Honorable. The point about streamlining, the intakes. I recall that previously it used to be, selection based on levels, right? Category A, B, or C, and based on your performance, you're then admitted. But that appears to have changed under the free senior high school policy, where they allow
everybody.
Yes, everyone.
Actually, the truth is that in all the civilized and advanced, education-wise, not civilized in terms of advanced economies and middle level, basic school does not end until you have finished SHS. So in the first place, as much as you, there's a point in what you are saying, no child should be denied free SHS, because it has been proven that if you don't stay in school until about 18 years, you are handicapped for the rest of your life. Every now and then you can get people like me who didn't go to secondary school, but you are talking about 1 in 1,000. So everybody must have an opportunity to go to secondary school, because it seems that after 18, people have matured enough to go to trade. Even Germany, which is much more solid when it comes to vocational, they don't let people go to vocational school after JHS. They all go to
the
high school. And when they are at grade 10, when they thought that you have gotten the sufficient language, mathematics, and other skills, then they apply those who will then go and do special course and go to university direct, and those who go to the vocational education. So there is a certain amount of pre-university education which we have to make sure that all our children go to. In fact, we shouldn't start vocational education even that early. Everybody goes to has a general education
before
and then they go there, because
so there shouldn't be cut-off points.
No, there shouldn't be cut-off point in going to secondary school. But then
so how
those of us let me solve her problem. Now her problem is this: that when they go to classes, for example, I mentioned the school in my village, which is a private school, so we are not forced to do what government is. There are some people who have access class. When they come, they are not capable of coping. So they do 1 year and we help them. And there they focus on language, mathematics, ICT. And by the end of the year, that's probably, they are just as good as all the people who we think should have gone.
But the sad story for the free SHS beneficiaries is they don't have the benefits of this.
That's what I'm saying, that we must find a solution to that. This idea that everybody must go through the 12 years to the end and then you fail. Some fail and some pass. It's not good. And I have found that children and young people have different levels of maturation and academically. And therefore, this idea of wholesale promotion is what we should look at. And then, how do we remedy their deficiencies early enough? We are able to do it because we are a small school and we are able to look at individual students. But we must have, at a national level, a way of helping low status and weak students. And they don't have to be thrown in there, then they finish, go home. You have failed.
Let me ask you, Professor Fletcher, the issue about cut-off points. We'll deal with the taxes later, but let's touch on that briefly, and then we move to the second question about the taxes.
Oh yeah, thank you very much, President. Yeah, absolutely, I agree with Prof. Because I don't think that's an issue. I think everyone must have access to senior high school education. It's very important. That should be the minimum. The idea that there are people with aggregate 36 and aggregate 6 in the same class, I think that one is a pedagogical issue. I don't think that it's a problem if we have teachers who are trained to teach in such a way that every child in the class, improves their performance. I think the idea, and there's a new curriculum, education new curriculum, which is actually emphasizing differentiation. So within the class itself, it doesn't mean that the people who are able to do certain tasks are not allowed to do because they are waiting for others who are lacking. That's not a good idea. I think teachers must learn to teach a class in such a way that different people with different abilities will be able to benefit from the class.
Right.
Definitely, they will get more after the class that they came in with the class. So I think that's not an issue. Everybody must be given the opportunity to have secondary education as a basic minimum.
Okay, Dr. Anti? Dr. Peter Anti, can you hear me? The issue about cut-off. Yes, cut-offs. Yeah.
I'm a student of Professor Fletcher. He believes in the ability of every student in his class. So I totally subscribe to his position. I think that we should not have a conversation about bringing cut-off point at this time at all. We don't need it. We need to let students go through the system. Like Professor Adai said, you need to do the 14 years of education, and then we don't want anybody to drop out. You should rather bring in measures, train teachers to be able to deal with the different kinds of students that they have in their class. These are training issues that we would have a conversation on. But to introduce cut-off points at this time in our lives as a country, I don't think it's something we should entertain at all.
Right. And for you, Dr. Atefua?
Yes. The objective of our senior higher education and even the basic education is to prepare the learners, or we may call students, the learners, such that they will be able to pursue further education. That's the first point. The second point is that they will be able to enter the world of work. And the third point is that they will become socially fit so that they can live amongst people wherever they find themselves. So we should do a longitudinal study, right from the kindergarten through the basic up to the junior high school. Before they enter into the senior high school, we should know where each child is heading towards. We should be able to, so if we can introduce or get a framework that will do these longitudinal studies of our learners, by the time they are exiting into the senior high school, we know where each one will be fit for. So like Prof. earlier on said, we need to emphasize the fact that even at P3, a child should be able to read and write, should be able to add 3-letter words, 2-letter words, and make a pronouncement and be able to read and write. If the children are able to do that, they can progress in their academic ladder. And therefore, from there, we take it from there, the upper primary onwards, we should be able to study these children so that by the time that they are exiting from the junior high school, we know where each one is fit for, and then we can direct them properly. Other than that, some people will enter and may be given programs which probably their interest is even not there, and their capability is also not there. They cannot cope with the courses that have been given them. I know most of the people, because they want to be in certain specific institution, any course they give them, they accept it, they want to do. Probably they have filled the form that they want to do, let's say, mathematics, or let's say science program. But when they enter, you see it's full. Therefore, shift to, say, business. And they accept it willingly because they just want to be in that school, have a certificate that bears the name of that institution. And therefore, for me, we need to do these longitudinal studies so that by the time that they are exiting the junior high school to the senior high school, we know exactly the program that is fit for them.
Right. And just before... yeah, okay.
Listen, if I can come here, you see, that was the essence of the NST. And sometimes these things, when you talk about people feel that the Ministry of Education and the previous government didn't do us any good in terms of some of the things that we wanted to implement alongside the standard-based curriculum that we had. That was the essence of the NST, so that the student is tracked from basic 3, basic 6, and then when it gets to basic 8, that gives you an idea the various abilities of the student, and then you have a more informed way to direct the student which direction that it should go. When it got to the implementation of the NST, it was taken off board, and they did what they wanted to do. Now, NST is of no use to anybody again.
For the sake of time, let's do this. Let's deal with the policy measure of possible taxes. and then we'll go online, read some comments, because there are a number of people also watching us via stream. So we'll do that, and then we can call it a day. So, Honorable, the point about taxes.
Yes, my dear sister asked first about the double track system, what we need to do to avoid it. Yeah. She wants to know what does it entail, what the NDC manifesto has about it. And one is that of collaborating with already established private schools, the mission schools, the St. Anthony's, the St. Joseph's, and what have you, so that they will accept more students from the government side during the time of posting the free senior high people, the placement time. They will sit with them, and then that's how we are going to solve the double. And also, if you remember, the NDC manifesto earlier, they were targeting about 100 e-blocks, which they were doing 29. Later, our people said they did just 15. World Bank collaborated. We were targeting 100 e-blocks. So if 100 e-blocks, and each e-block can take about 1,000 students for an area, that if they complete the other ones left in the bushes, they will be able to absorb almost every student, so that the double track system is automatically gone. Is it okay? Right. Good. The next thing is about my friend's question, whether we will accept a levy for senior high. As a nation, we are all trying to brainstorm the best way to shift from only oil revenue for sponsoring free senior high to other areas. So a very good suggestion, proposal. I'm sure during the educational forum, they will have to look at it. Which other ways can we help to get more taxes? When was that? My brother Awuku, Samuel Awuku, was contributing on the floor of Parliament, and he was looking at national lottery, that in some nations, they tag the lottery if you stick. Maybe some pesos go to health, some pesos go to education, some percentage of pesos go to. So we could look at all those places if it is well streamlined. Yeah. You understand? So a levy of that sort could also come in as a nation. If we all accept that that is the way to go, why not? So I'll be coming back to my audience in studio, but there are a number of people joining us online. So maybe it's a good time to take some of the questions here. This one is from Master Planner. He says that free senior high school is one of the best policies in the country that the country has witnessed. We hope and pray that this government will work accordingly to improve its quality. It should be equally accessible and equitable. Regards to my MP, Honorable Joseph Kumar. I'm sure you know Master Planner. He's watching us now. This one says that the reality we have is that we have weak structures, so that free senior high school policy should be looked into for a better future. Right from 2017 till as of now, most of the students within that category know nothing. As a result of that, you could see that tertiary students, I believe he's saying, cannot speak English. Well, I don't know how true. Well, it's debatable, isn't it? A lot of people sharing their thoughts on that. Okay, this is from Benin Yakubu. He says that there should be a cutoff point for free senior high school from grade 6 to 30, and they should benefit from the free senior high school policy. Parents should also be asked to pay 60% of the fees, and government pays 40% of that. And he continues to say that schools should also be tested to acquire 10 acres of land for serious farming to feed the schools. Prof, you agree with this idea? School farms. Where is Aquinas going to have a school farm? the comparative advantage. The Aquinas people will not be happy right now. But those places, 10 acres, he says. 10 acres. Yeah. So if you have 10 acres, you can farm and you can do some farming. Yeah, the villagers, I think it's a good idea, but not everybody. Right. Not all schools, but most schools can. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. This one coming through from Effa Rich says that we know they will cancel it soon. Someone is saying probably the NDC might cancel that. Someone is talking politics now. We don't want to do politics here. So this one says, free SHS without end of terms examinations. This is
Okay, then I'm not really getting that. But I think Daniel T wants to say that there's not been an examination. Kwesi Kwarteng, is that the case that you don't write exams for free SHS students?
End of terminal.
No, it's also students. Right, yeah. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, okay. So obviously you have your answer there, Daniel T. It's not the case that they don't write exams. This one says that the free SHS is a scam, just like the former finance. Okay, well, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. Anyway, okay, and then there's some commendations coming through for our audience as well. People are appreciating your questions, so please give it up for yourself if you're in the audience now. Well, it's been an exciting moment here on the National Dialogue, Joint Prime National Dialogue on the Free Senior High School policy. But we'll be wrapping up. So let me give the opportunity to each of my panelists to make their concluding remarks on all that we've heard so far, because I can summarize a number of them. There's the issue.
Those who didn't come will get the same as us.
So yeah, there's the issue about funding, enrollment, people asking for levies to be paid. But in all, I think we all agree that some reform or perhaps a review will be necessary in improving the free senior high school policies. So let me start off with you, Honorable Kumar, and then I'll go to the rest and come to Prof. Yes.
So once again, let me say that we are in government now, and Ghanaians want to hear more that we have on it. So by way of summary, what I can add is that in fact, we need that all-inclusivity in discussing the free senior high. We shouldn't politicize it. Let's all come on board. The former education minister, workers in education, come, let's contribute to it. If we go this way, this will be the effect. If we go this way, all civil society organizations, they should come. And like I said, parents down there, both educated formally and non-educated, to come and speak their tree, their ever, their mo, their sisala. We will translate. They should come and give us the input. Oh, I'm a farmer. Maybe I can help my children, if so be. Oh, I can't. I'm a full seller. If the economy improves, I can sell and I'll be able to do this for it to go on. Let's accept their views. Because after our 1992 constitution was given up by some of those people. You see, the government plans, the NDC government plan, we are saying that to reform secondary education curriculum, including STEM and all those things. And then we also plan to continue our policy of provision of free laptops for senior high students, which the present government also came and started. So I'm Education Select Committee. Right. We went to witness it. Just that most of the schools have not yet got in question, so we'll continue the issue. Then also forge partnership for the efficient delivery of secondary education, including restoring the role of parent-teacher association. Prof mentioned it. You know, we came out with PA, Parent Association, where we don't have teachers and children interacting with. In the olden days, I attended the old system. During open days, PTA days, when they are sitting, the heads of schools will tell you, be around, don't go anywhere. If the headmaster should recount some indiscipline, the parent in the midst of the colleagues can say, hey, call my son here. I don't want to go and deal with him at home alone. Headmaster, call him. The parent will tell the headmaster, next time this thing happens, please, lash him. Yes. Lash him proper. And that helps to change the fellow's behavior. Yes. But of late, what are we? There's the so-called human rights.
It's and not then, so-called, is it?
Excuse me, sorry for that word. The human rights issues. Sorry. The human rights issues don't deal with the child. Yeah. It's corporal punishment. But if parents interact with teachers and with students, and they warn their children before the teachers, the child cannot misbehave in the school again. Today, what are we seeing? A child taking a cutlass and knocking not cutlassing the person, though turning it to flip the fellow as if we say, no, the parent is innocent. But you are saying we shouldn't shout. By mere fact that parents come to the school to interact with the teachers, it means we are telling the children that the teachers are also their parents. And so they should listen to them. But when you say parents alone should have their meeting, then without teachers should also have their meeting. And then we are handing the children over to only the government. That means I
see.
When they are in the school, they are government children. It's
so
not for parents and it's not for
teachers. Some of the aspects that we...
So parent-teacher association should be strengthened.
Should be back.
And we know what they can do. Parents will understand the policies and say, look, we will take up some of the issues. When you add parent-teacher association, I'm sure we will solve most of this problem.
Okay, grateful.
Which the NDC government hopes to bring.
Okay, let me then bring in Kwesi Kwarteng. Your concluding remarks on this?
Yes, my concluding remarks, just a quick one. I mean, while as citizens, we are hoping and praying that the new government delivers on their mandate, we are reminding them that we are expecting the extension of the free senior high school to cover private senior high school, private SHS. And also decentralization of the procurement of the food. Let it be on record that it is not the distribution of food that is centralized. It has rather to do with the procurement. But they are talking about decentralization of the procurement aspect. So we are also waiting to see that. Just a quick correction. As at when we were leaving power, within that same week, perishables we've paid about 50 million Ghana cedis was released to the senior high school. So it is not, well, I mean, you know, Primus is your party member, so I don't want to go into the politics of it. But you see, I want to end by saying that politicians have always been our own enemies. And we may not be where we have to be as a country, but we're also definitely not where we used to be. The way we criticize the free senior high school policy, I just hope and pray that we'll be able to cause the necessary reviews and changes that we all pray and aim for. Except that for this discussion, particularly referencing your manifesto, you are still going to maintain the free senior high school in relation with the cost. When you were pushed about the cost sharing that you said because of appointment issue, but I understand you ran away from it, the Honorable Kuma. I wanted clarity.
Wow, sure.
I wanted clarity on whether or not this government intends to do anything about the cost, i.e., whether or not borders should continue to be free, because it looks like you are just inheriting and maintaining everything that we handed over to you, except that you are saying you are going to extend it to free senior high schools. But I mean, bottom line is that we expect that you maintain it. We expect that the policy continues to also increase access for the records. We maintained it at 3.5 million. We are expecting a significant increase, not only on access, but we are also expecting that quality will also be enhanced.
Yeah.
And the final expectation is that when access marries quality, that is where we have an impact on the socio-economic transformation. As of now, if you look at, for instance, gender parity, if you go to school, there are more even female students in senior high school than male students. So it's something that is quite significant and profound.
From the population.
Okay. So we are expecting all the indicators to move right.
Okay.
So that the gross tertiary enrollment ratio, which currently stands at 22%, hopefully by the time the NDC, your 4-year mandate also elapsed, at least we should see that it's also increased marginally. So that it's not only about the talks, and criticizing food. There are 18 food items that are always sent to the school. Aside distributional challenges and storage challenges, any magic that will be done when it comes to the food situation. So we are expecting also improvement within the food situation. And we are going to monitor and criticize you constructively and keenly and make sure that everything that you promise, you will indeed deliver. Thank you.
Dr. Atefo, let me hear from you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that one coal cannot make fire. But where a number of coals are heaped together, we can garner the energies that are in each one of them. And we can use it to set the fire. And then that fire will show, or light will show us the way forward. And so it is good that the government is calling for education forum where a lot of people with diverse ideas come and support, help maintain, strengthen the free SHS that we have now. I also want to make a statement commending, what Professor Ade said, that their days they studied civics. I also studied civics. And I still remember a lesson that was taught on that a community wanted to build a school. And they wanted to build this school on a higher mountain. And one group of the members of the community loaded blocks into a wheelbarrow. You could see it in pictures. And they were pushing it towards the apogee, the mountain top, so that they could build this school. Another group of the community was seen pulling it back so that this wheelbarrow would not get to the top. And yet a third community stood aside, stood aloof, folded their arms and were shouting, yeah, who will win? Who will win? So we ask ourselves as a nation, we have this group of people in our country. Where do we belong? Where do we belong? Are we, and the lesson says that those who were pushing it up so that we could build the school were called Mr. Good, or was called Mr. Good. But the one that was pulling it back was called Mr. Bad. And those who were standing aloof and observing and shouting, they were just there and not doing anything. See, that they were called Mr. Passive. So now I'm asking Ghanaians, are we Mr. Good? Are we Mr. Bad? Are we Mr. Passive? Where do we belong? Let us all put our hands on the deck. At African Education Watch, we have prepared transition briefs, which is going to help transit their manifesto into policies. So we work with all the political parties such that what they want to do, what they want to implement, their ideas, they have carved into their manifestos. When they win power, we help them to, fashion out the way we should go so that those good points will be translated and we use it, become a policy for them to work with. And so I want to say that if they get in touch, definitely they can get some of these transition briefs, which will guide them. Thank you.
Yeah. This shows that you're a very sharp student, I understand. And of course, you could recall what you were taught way back in time. But let me bring in Dr. Peter Anti. Let's also hear your concluding remarks on this, and I'll come to Prof for us to wrap up.
Pleasant. I would say that policies are good as their sustainability measures, and they become even better when there's buy-in from the populace. The current administration have the real opportunity to get the buy-in of Ghanaians as to the way forward for not only free senior high school, but for our pre-tertiary education system. I pray and hope that they use this opportunity judiciously, they eschew partisan political agendas, and ensure that we come together, build consensus as to how to fund not only the free senior high school, but our pre-tertiary education system, how to build the base of our education system, how to ensure that we equip the base of our education system with the requisite teaching and learning resources, so that if the foundation is strong, those who are being fed into the senior high school system would not have challenges with the kind of challenges that we experience in terms of teaching and learning now. So it is my prayer that we do not miss this opportunity. And I hope that all those who matter and all those who have contributions as they are put out there would let their voices be heard and join to ensure that whatever decision that comes out of this plan to review our education system would be decisions that would first and foremost benefit our children and secure the future of this country. Because it's education that builds the human capital base, it's education that improves the economic well-being of the people. And when the individuals are living well, then the country would also do well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Professor Fletcher? Prof, are you still with us?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Yeah, again, I think I should say that Dr. has actually, taking the words out of my mouth. He actually taking the wind out of my sails by actually suggesting that we should concentrate, earlier on the teaching and learning at the basic level meaning primary to junior high school before they come there, because when that happens, there's a lot of work that have been done already. But I think what I want to say is that I do not believe that any government should be solely responsible for education. I believe that education is an all hands on deck affair. So what that means is that we need to look elsewhere for support. For example, we need to look at public-private partnerships. It does not necessarily mean that public-private partnerships should always be something that we're looking for profit. I think we need to find a way in which people who are successful and organizations will support education in various ways. I was going to suggest something which I know a lot of people will kick against, but for example, people who invest in treasury bills and bonds, for example, can contribute anything between 0.5% and 1% of the incomes, from these to support education, because education is a social good, and if there are people who are privileged to have the opportunity to support, I think we should encourage them. I think we should make sure that we keep the good things about it, particularly free HSS, particularly keep the equitable access that we have, that we should hold on dearly to that, and we should try and look at the challenges and make sure work on the challenges so that we don't lose the advantages we've got, but try and minimize the challenges so that it becomes even more advantageous. So I believe strongly that everyone believes that it's a very good idea. The main thing is how to fund it, and we should look for different ways of funding it to make sure that every learner or every child in Ghana enjoys free secondary education. Thank you.
Okay, and from you, we'll move to Professor Ade, who's with us in studio.
Thank you very much. Let me probably start from where Professor Fletcher ended, that we must find sources of money to sustain it from the beneficiaries, their parents. But this idea of a new source of taxation, already there are about so many that there's going to be streamlining. But as he was talking, something came to my mind. Why not we tax 5% of treasury bill returns? It could be a good way.
Are we doing another debt restructuring?
This is that treasury bills. But whatever it is, we must increase our source of money.
I'm sure a lot of people will be coming at you.
Yes, I know that I've been in trouble. But it just occurred to me, and I thought that it's not something I'd predetermined it. Right. Again, we mentioned quality, and we never took it up. Let me say that there has been some deterioration in quality, not necessarily due to the free SHS. We are talking about social relationships, has been moral standards and everything else. And it normally happens when you have so many people together, being able with the discipline and everything else. So if you look at other areas, there has been some quality deterioration, which we must look at not only at the results. And even in the academic area, do you know that for the first time in recent years, the University of Ghana and other universities have had to really dismiss students because they don't have the capacity to follow university education. And it happened last year. They had to separate many of the students who had gotten so-called A's and entrance requirement, but couldn't follow university education. So even the quality there, but that should not, we are not saying it should be attributed to free SHS. The general deterioration, I'm totally for putting more money and making sure that every primary school child becomes literate and numerate, because then they will do better whether free or paying SHS. Yeah. I don't know how the NDC is going to work with the private schools. You are not coming to my private school. But there are many other private schools. No, you won't come. I won't let you come. But on a more serious note, there are many private schools, especially in the districts and other things, which are vacant.
Yes, that's right.
And therefore, how to bring them on board. But excluding Ghana Christian International High School in Shiromwasi.
He's one of the best. We'll come and
let me go on to, since my time is, there's no doubt at all. I think that the free SHS will stand as the best contribution of the Kufuor government. What they did was that this forum should have happened yesterday, 2 years ago. And I'm glad that the NDC is going to allow so that we get the best of opinions to shape it, not to destroy it, to make it better.
Great points there. And of course, let's do it one more time for all of our guests who are helping with the conversation. And in fact, Honorable Kuma was just pointing out to me that aside the treasury issues, we could also be looking at taxing some 20 cities.
If as a nation... If as a nation...
But you must have a time for the funding, so don't get yourself a politician. Don't get yourself with a stagnation suggestion. Go on.
Yes. I'm saying that it's not about even free senior high. As a nation, if I believe that the road sector is terrible, and I'm sure I'm giving something to government, and government will use it for its purpose,
then there won't be a problem at all.
There won't be a problem. Are you getting me? If I'm sure government is using it for its purpose, there won't be a problem. This is where I'm coming from. Because if you are telling me to contribute 20 cedi from my salary a month for free senior high implementation, and I know the money will be judiciously used, why not? Why not?
So you seem to be supporting the last question that we had about a possible...
He's bringing in the issue of levy. We are trying to see how we can widen the funding gap, isn't it?
Yeah.
So these are possibilities.
I see. It is possible, isn't it?
It's possible. No. It is possible. They are resetting the agenda, and it is possible.
And it is possible.
It is not to be cancelled, but how we can make it.
I see. So many possibilities here. But it's been a great conversation, part of the Joy Prime National Dialogue on Free Senior High School Policy. And of course, we've been taking some notes as well. Key issues that we agree on that we believe should inform the way forward. And let me just read some of them to you, because, for instance, we all agree that free SHS has, first of all, increased enrollment, but there are concerns about quality and the financial sustainability of the policy. Then there's the issue about experts agreeing that education should not be politicized, that we need to depoliticize that sector. That's a very critical one, because at least the free senior high school policy is one of them, that we all agree it must stay except for the reforms that ought to take place. There's a point about the boarding system as well, how costly it is, and the fact that we need some reforms, people going to community day schools to ease the burden on government. Tuition should remain free. We've made that point here as well. And then the double track system has ensured some level of access for all, but it's not a long-term solution. I think Prof made that point very clearly as well. So government should not solely fund education. Let's explore other public-private funding opportunities. And you've heard a raft of measures being proposed, including Honorable Kuma's possibilities of introducing some levies on Ghanaian workers. We're not too sure if that will be the way forward, but we'll see what will happen. It's been a great conversation for today, and this has been made possible by our partners, School for Life, who supported the conversation all throughout. And just as I started with that, Shaibu, I think it's a good time with that to bring you back, so we hear your concluding remarks as well, having listened to experts and also our audiences.
Thank you very much. I mean, today has been great. I mean, we really had great conversations. And by way of my concluding remarks, I just want to also highlight some key takeaway from this discussion for me. But before I do that, I would like to extend our deepest appreciation to the panelists for, the dispassionate discussion and critical reflections that they have brought to bear in this dialogue. We would also like to thank the audience, both in studio and those watching us from across all the social media platforms and so on. It's been great, and School for Life is really very proud and excited to have collaborated with Joy Prime to have this dialogue. And I guess that this is just a start. We will continue with this discussion into the national forum that is scheduled to start from next week going. So whatever inputs, suggestions that are being discussed here, I believe that they will be tailored at the national forum as well, so that the government will really take them on board as they draw up their agenda for education. So by way of my takeaway, it's been established in this dialogue that free SHS is good and should stay, though there has been some challenges with the implementation that need to be looked at and addressed so that we can actually achieve the level of quality and, of course, parity that is required. What is also underscored in this dialogue is that a review is indeed necessary to foster the kind of quality and efficiency that we are looking for. What has been really also highlighted critically is the financing bit of it. It's been underscored here that we have to take a second look at the financing regime currently being implemented and broaden the sources of funding in order to ensure that we have an efficient, sustainable, and of course, equitable approach to the free SHS program. And then for me, what I also really took in terms of the funding, as well as especially regarding the kind of models or suggestion, is the consideration to somehow adopt a kind of a welfare approach that allows for every student to have free tuition, but then target needy students for full sponsorship for the full course of senior higher education, whilst encouraging the well-to-do parents to support shared cost. I think that that is a laudable suggestion, and I believe that the government, as they prepare to remodel the secondary education, will take a critical look at this.
Okay.
But then there is also another point that that really caught me thinking, and that has to do with the uneven investment and, if you like, also attention to the secondary schools that we have by way of infrastructure, as well as other relevant logistical and educational resources. If we were to adopt a certain kind of targeted investment, whereby we target those that are actually deprived in terms of infrastructure and the relevant necessary logistical resources, logistical support and resources, to keep it at a par with the other so-called A and B schools. I think that we will get to a situation where people will not just be clamoring for for those A schools, and this will have a kind of a diversified and well-balanced secondary schools, secondary education across all the schools. So I think that we need to look at that critical. That way we can reduce the pressure of intake at the so-called A schools and redistribute it across the other secondary schools.
And with that, this typifies how passionate you are about education at School for Life, and we're grateful that you've done this in partnership with Joy Prime, having this national dialogue on the free senior high school. And I'm grateful to all of you for joining us on television, on all of our social media handles. I am Blessed Ogan. Once more, I'm requesting from you, my audience, to give it up for all of us as we wrap up. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.